Hey everyone, how's everybody doing? My name is Scott Wilkinson and I'm a professional piercer. You're watching the Piercing with Scott channel. Now what we're doing on this live stream is we're going over a bunch of questions like we normally do, all piercing related or anything piercing related. Just ask a question. Be super thorough so I can answer your question to the best of my ability. And stay active in the chats. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, you know, all that fun stuff. And we'll kind of go from there. Behind the camera, who you can't see today, is Nova. So
hey, everybody.
There he is. Yeah. And I just want to say that, you know, Nova is going to be starting piercing at my shop here this week. So we're doing some deals. So if you're in Vegas and you want to get pierced by Nova, now's the time to sign up.
Yes. Yeah, we're doing reduced piercing fees for a little while I get back into the swing of things. But yeah, I am finally taking on clients, which I'm pretty stoked about.
Define getting in the swing of things.
So I went through an apprenticeship
and
was a piercer for a little while.
Couple years, right?
Yeah. And I took a little bit of time off. Just there are some piercings that I haven't done in a little while that I may have to shake some of the dust on, but it's all coming back really soon.
Yeah, we're super excited to have him on board. So yeah, if you want to get pierced by Nova, do it now at the discounted rate. Otherwise, he's going to go up to full price pretty darn quick. Darn quick.
Very soon.
Pretty darn quick. And we tried having Kelsey here today, but unfortunately, we didn't mark off the time, and she has to pierce people. People need their holes put in them, so.
It's true.
Yep, they do. We do. We all do. So.
Well, we've got some friends in the chat. Hey, everybody. We got a hi from Tina C. Hi from Kayla. Hi from Luna de Blue.
Hello, everyone. And where's everyone from? If you're saying hi, let us know what part of the world or the country or wherever you're from.
Yes.
We like knowing this. This is kind of fun.
We absolutely do. Let's see. We have a question, I think, from Soup Kitchen Richard.
Okay.
Scott, does having an intact build limit options for male genital piercings? Not 100% sure I know exactly what they're asking.
Build. You mean not being circumcised, maybe? No.
That could be it.
You know, if that's what the question is, circumcision does permit you to have some piercings and not other ones. Like foreskin piercings work perfect for uncircumcised. But if you're looking for like a Prince Albert, Ampang, Apodravia, sometimes that does not work because the skin's too tight and you can't put pressure on a fresh piercing. So that would be it. If this is not your question, ask us again. It's early. We can get back to you.
It is.
Yes,
it is.
yes.
Yeah, he mentioned with the foreskin.
Yep.
I've also, as far as like PAs go, and some other genital piercing, it doesn't make them not viable, but it's
situational.
It is situational, and you may find certain jewelry to be more comfortable than others.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I've seen some people heal stuff up with no problems, but again, it's the right jewelry. And I've also seen people use the right jewelry and they had nothing but problems, because when you have skin over the top of it and putting pressure on there, that skin's going to get raw. You're going to create sores. I've even seen it erode holes through the side of the tissue, which is not very pleasant. So that's kind of the issue.
Yeah, that's a bad time.
Doesn't sound fun at all, does it?
Not at all. From Karen Rojas. Hey, Mr. Scott, Nova, how are y'all doing today? I'm having a great day.
Pretty darn swell. Pretty darn swell. Yeah, we just went and had some lunch. Everything's good. I got my Dutch brothers. So cheers to y'all.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's going really well. It's starting to get warm here in Vegas. We're entering summer season. Yesterday, I think we had a high of 95, so we're getting up there. So.
Yeah, it's definitely getting getting hot. My car is starting to get like sticky on the inside. Like every time, I'm like, it's hot.
I'm so glad I bought a white vehicle this last time.
Yeah, I have to tint my windows soon. But yeah, so Soup Kitchen Richard did follow up and say that he's mainly interested in a PA and potentially an Ampang. So I guess he's wondering if being uncircumcised can cause any issues with those.
A little bit. The bigger the beads you go, the more issues you'll have. With a PA, you definitely want to get pierced with a curved barbell. But again, it really depends on how tight that foreskin is over the area. Ampang, you can still heal this up. It's going to be a little bit rougher because you have to have an extra long bar. Let me explain this for those of you who are not aware. An Ampang is a horizontal through the head of the penis right before the corpus cavernosum, which is like the spongy tissue, which can cause the actual erection. Now, at the end of the penis is where the corpus cavernosum stops, and we go just in front of that. But the thing is we have to have an extra long bar to accommodate room for swelling. And once you're more healed up after maybe a month or two, you want to downsize to a much shorter bar. And you want to measure so those beads are nice and snug. That's when it's going to be the most comfortable for you. Otherwise, it's going to be getting caught, and it's going to be a little rough healing process.
Awesome. It seems like today is going to be genital day.
Here we go.
Yeah, Ashley is wondering, hi, Scott, how much does the genitals hurt to get pierced? I would say that definitely depends on which one you're looking to get.
100%. Now, I'm going to say, like, let's talk about, like, vulva piercings, like a VCH, a vertical clitoral hood. The tissue generally is almost paper thin, so you're not going through much tissue. It's like if someone came up to you and flicked you in the ear, you're going to go, ow. By the time you say ow, the pain's pretty much gone. Now, if you're talking about a triangle piercing where it's underneath the clitoral shaft and it's pretty deep in there, you're definitely dealing with a lot more pain and a little bit more intensity. Now, when you're dealing with something like an outer labia piercing, like the outer lips, are a little bit more firm, so it's a little bit rougher of a healing process and a lot more crusties to deal with. You're going to get pierced with a curved barbell, and those bars can move back and forth. So as long as you keep the crusties off there, I mean, they all hurt, but you're probably expecting worse than what actually happens. That's the best way I can really describe it. I wish I could tell you, but, you know, if we asked each and every one of you, like on a scale of 1 to 10, you stub your little toe really good. What's the worst? 1's like virtually nothing. 10's the worst thing in the world. Let us know in the comments. Just throw down a number real quick. You're going to see those numbers are all over the board. And that's the same thing with piercing. So just because one person says, oh, I didn't feel a thing, you're going to feel something, but it's probably not as bad as you expect.
It also depends on how hard you hit your little toe.
Yeah, I hate that so much. And also depends on the piercer you go to. It's not always just you. If you go to a low-end piercer who's using low, cheap needles, their technique is not very good, it's a slow, rough, you know, it's going to be way worse. So go to a quality piercer. Not especially for genital. For all piercings, why would you go to anyone that doesn't know what they're doing? It doesn't make sense. Go to the best.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. We've got a question from Jax. Hi, Scott. I got my 3rd lobes done, and the piercer said that it would take 6 to 9 months to heal. If it's not cartilage, why would it take so long?
Okay. So 3rd hole's up, sometimes 4th, sometimes it's the 5th, but that area you reach where the lobe kind of stops, well, I used to have lobes that have been cut off, but where it meets the cartilage, it gets weird. It may not seem like when you pierce it, it's not going through the cartilage, feels like it's just lobe, but they are rougher to heal there, and I don't have a solid answer. I don't say it's going to take like the 6 to 9 months, but instead of the 6 to 8 weeks for a normal lobe to heal, I'd say double it. You know, it could be as 3 or 4 months. So that's the way I look at it. But once you hit the cartilage, and if they definitely hit the cartilage, that's when you're looking the 6 months to a year healing process. So there's the weird in-between area, and I wish I knew, but they just don't heal as smooth as regular lobes. The high lobes are a little rougher.
It's true. Closer to the cartilage, it makes sense. Pirelli said, hey, what's up, guys? Congrats, Nova. Thanks very much.
Hey, Pirelli.
I also noticed you said that your car's temp was 99. I got my car the other day, and it was 107, but my car is all black, so yes. I'm sure that's why.
Yeah, it was warm yesterday. I looked and it said a high of 95 on our thermostat, but
this summer is going to be rough.
You think so?
The true summer, yeah, definitely, definitely. Getting hotter
from Minnesota.
Every year.
I'm still okay with a hot summer as long as I don't have that super cold winter.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Luna de Blue said, I am going to Las Vegas, but the days I will be, you have them off. Oh, no. I wonder if that's during conference.
I bet it is.
Oh, yeah. What are the dates?
Yeah, let us know. That's a bummer.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, we're only closed for generally like a week a year or something like that, and that's during the APP. Actually, no, we close a couple days, like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Easter. A couple of the major holidays, it's just not busy enough, so we close those down too. But
Yep. Let's see, from Becca Do Daisy. Hey, Scott, I just got my conches done a few days ago. Piercer told me Bactine and Q-tips are good for cleaning. I've heard others say Bactine is bad. Thoughts?
Read the instructions. It's going to tell you, not made for puncture wounds, right on that Bactine bottle. So I'm going to say it's bad. It's not real good for it. Now, the active ingredient in there is called benzoyl chloride or benzochlonium chloride, one of those two. And I don't know. They just don't do what they claim to do. Like when you go to the mall and you got pierced at Claire's or something like that, they give you the bottle of ear care. That's just BZK, that benzalthonium chloride. So I'm not a big fan of it. It can work for some things, but piercings, we find that just straight saline is going to be your best bet. Q-tips are bad because they leave the cotton fiber residues behind hand. So it's better to use like some sort of like sterile gauze or paper towels if nothing else. But just make sure you're not leaving the cotton residue behind because that turns into a bacteria trap. And also you can have fuzzies all over your gem, and you don't want to have fuzzy gem. I don't think anyone does. I'm pretty sure anyone. 99.9% of us don't want fuzzy gems.
I have fuzzy gems on my mantis because I have bad allergies, so I blow my nose and then they get all fuzzy. But I'm just going to ask, were these done with rings? Because judging from the aftercare, I'm not 100% sure that I trust that this was done by somebody very high quality. Bactine and Q-tips are definitely very old school. Very old school, outdated information.
Yep. I agree. And if you have the ring, was this for a nostril piercing? Or what piercing?
Conches.
Conch. Oh, I hope you didn't get... Yeah, if you get pierced with a ring in the conch, expect probably at least a year healing process. And it's not like it's just going to take a little while for the crust. It's going to be sore and it's going to hurt and you're not going to be able to sleep on that. And you're going to have massive, massive bumps. The thing is when you put a small ring in like a nostril, you get a little bit of a bump. But with the ear, the ring has to be that much bigger, so there's that much more twisting and turning. You don't want to twist and turn a fresh piercing. It's bad for it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We got some answers as far as where people are from. Tina C. from Southwest Florida.
Sweet.
Soup Kitchen Richard from Miami. A lot of Florida representing.
Yeah.
Ashley Abel from Easton, PA. Hi, Ashley. I'm from Pittsburgh, so
cool.
Not crazy far. S says hello from Shirley, Cape Cod.
Sweet.
Love it. Black Jade's here, says hi, Scott and Nova. Let's see. Taco Cat is a palindrome, says, hi, Scott. Greetings from Australia. I heard.
Sweet. I had to do that all in my head. Sorry.
Yeah, took me a second to read, too. They said that some piercers do conch piercings at a 16 gauge, but some at 4, which is better for healing. Thank you very much.
You mean 14 gauge, I'm guessing.
What did I say?
4.
Yes, 14 gauge. Sorry.
Yes, okay. Some are at 16, some are at 4 gauge. Like, find the 16 gauge piercers. Yeah. Now, in my opinion, I think 14s are probably going to heal a little bit better than the 16. But 99% of the jewelry options and everything you're going to find is going to be in the 16 gauge, which is why I generally go with the 16. It's not like it's way worse. It just doesn't quite heal as good. So 16 is still very viable and totally legit. If you're planning on wearing a ring in the future, sometimes thicker jewelry can be more comfortable if you're wearing that ring. But as far as like tops go, like if you're using threadless jewelry where it's the push pin style, 16 gauge, 14 gauge, 12 gauge, they're all interchangeable. So they all could work with each other. So it's something you could stretch up in the future or downsize. It's up to you. Got the hiccups early this episode.
Get them out of the way.
That's right. But yeah, it's not necessarily bad. I remember when we first started, when I first started piercing back in the early 90s, I was told we had to do a minimum of 14 gauge and we also had to do a minimum of 5/8 inch barbell, which is a long barbell. But we said you have to have room for swelling. But to be honest with you, I never saw anyone swell up to near that amount. Then I started going, wait a minute, maybe this isn't right. Maybe it's not one size fits all. And then I started downsizing smaller gauges, smaller lengths, and it's worked out much, much better. So the right size jewelry is important.
That is important.
Yes.
And to chime in from the conch, Becca Do Daisy said, no, they were studs, which is good. Definitely want to heal a conch with a straight piece.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
That's what we're looking for.
Yes. Jack says, shout out from St. Louis.
St. Louis. Here we go. Cool.
Yes. S says, Mr. Scott, are you still doing What Should I Get Pierced? I emailed you, smiley face.
There is a long, long list. It's not on the near future, but we're trying to find a way to incorporate it back into the show. As of right now, I'm looking at possibly moving my studio in about 6 months. So that's taken up a lot of my time. I'm still trying to find other piercers to work at the shop so I can kind of focus more on those types of things and more on the YouTube thing. It's really tough trying to find the time to do it. And that's my issue. It's my issue. So I'm not making a promise, but I'm going to really try to do some more in the future, but I'm not sure the plan or how I need to make it happen. But I want to. Sorry, there's not a better answer for you.
We're trying.
We're trying. We were talking about this earlier. We really were.
Yes, we were. Tina C mentioned, she said her conch was originally pierced at a 16 gauge, but stretched to a 14 gauge. Hope to wear a 14 gauge ring in 6 months.
Yeah.
Cool.
Roughly 6 months. I mean, if it was just pierced and the piercer said wait 6 months, that's generally the minimum. You know, if you're piercing sore, irritated, if you get a lot of crusties on there still, wait longer. You know, it's every person heals at a different rate and everyone's lifestyle is different too.
It's true. A comment from Sarah Wardle, I think, when we were talking about the PAs and other genital piercings.
Yes.
I don't think any man wants to damage the family jewels because of a piercing. Define damage.
Yeah, that's kind of like that, like adorn/mutilate. You know, are you mutilating your body or are you adorning and decorating it? And it's kind of the same thing.
Yep.
But you know, sometimes when it comes to like sexuality and things like that, it's people want fancier, different, something more. Sometimes it's for reclaiming body parts. If something bad happened to you and it's like, hey, this is mine again. There's different ways to go to look at it, and it's different for every single person. I wish there was a solid answer, but there isn't on this one. It's like some people don't feel comfortable. Like I feel like, oh, if someone feels they're too small or too big, it can kind of detract or deter away from that, if that makes any sense. It's really hard to say, but yeah, it's different for every single person, and if it makes you feel better, that's the most important thing.
Bejeweling the family jewels can be a fun experience.
I can't believe you just said that. I love that.
From Aaron Finn, will you be at conference this year?
Yes, we will. I will be there. Naval will be there. Kelsey will be there. And I've talked to a couple other people too, so there's going to be quite a few of us there. It's a huge... The conference we're talking about is the Association of Professional Piercers, and it's coming up in about a month or so, and it's here in Las Vegas, and all the big piercers from around the world, or the piercers that really care, are the ones who show up, and we take classes, we learn from each other, we network, we see the new jewelry, the new fads. If there's new laws and things that are kind of kicked in, we can talk about that. It's a place of knowledge. I love it.
Yes, it is. Me too.
Yes.
It's also kind of like a big family reunion.
It really is. It really is. I mean, it's funny because like a lot of you are chiming in saying, hey, I got pierced in this city, or and there's a chance I might know your piercer. You know, I've been going to this conference for over 10 years now. I can't even keep track of how many times I've gone. But it's like, yeah, you see these old friends and it's just like, I remember like 3 years ago, we sat down and we went to McDonald's together, or we sat down in this class and like you asked all these cool questions, and it's pretty amazing. It really is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm a rambling man today.
Rambling man. Let's see. Sorry. Hi, Emily. Emily says, hi, Scott and Nova.
Hello.
Delilah said, just sized my high nostrils to 16 gauge and put a metal bar across. I'm obsessed.
Sweet.
Very nice.
A metal bar across, like one of the Evolution style.
That's what I'm imagining. Yeah.
By Noah Babcock. Yeah.
I think those are really, really sick, actually. I had an idea to do like a high nostril and a nostril bar, like way back in the day, but never had it made because we were going to have to do it in gold. It was going to be insane, but wow. Yeah, I love the idea of the nostril bars. I think they look cool.
So I'm guessing it's like I have the chain across here. You probably have the bar instead of the chain. That's what I'm assuming, unless you're just saying you just upgraded to a 16 gauge bar instead of the 18 gauge bar.
Yep, or you got a nasalang.
Yeah, nasalang's all the way through. That's not high nostrils. That's way more intense than high nostrils.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. From Anastasia, hey, Scott and Nova. If a healed piercing can close without jewelry, plus the possibility of getting irritated and infected, is it ever really healed?
Yes. Yes, it is. And okay, so basically what happens is when we make a piercing or do a piercing, it makes a crescent incision. So you have this kind of like crescent moon cut. And what happens is we push all that tissue off to the side. And over time, that's why we say it takes 3-6 months, sometimes up to a year to heal, for that fistula or that tube of scar tissue to get thick enough. So you have a tube of scar tissue going from one point of the piercing to the other side. And that's what prevents germs, bacteria, things from getting in there for causing infections. That's why infections are most common within the first month to a couple months you have your piercing, because it's more of an open wound. After it's been several months like that, it's not considered an open wound anymore, but the reason they close is because they shrink. We didn't remove tissue, so you make this incision, push all this off to the side. But when you take jewelry back, it just wants to go back to its natural position. And a lot of times that hole shrinks enough to where we can't fit jewelry in there. If it ever gets irritated, the skin can reattach again. But most of the time, it's just super, super tiny. So I know, like for me, I used to have my belly button pierced, and I don't have jewelry in there anymore. But sometimes you can see a little bit of like you got to clean it out because like that little path, it's almost like you get like a little blackhead in there or something. So, yeah.
Awesome. Let's
see. Yeah, it will heal.
It will heal.
Now, on the other hand, like dermal anchors, that's where I've always really questioned things because, like an eyebrow, I've healed a tube of scar tissue from point A to point B. But when you have a dermal anchor and it's just a single point in, I don't know if the body completely encapsulates that with that fistula or that type of scar tissue. So I feel like those stay more of an open wound, and that's why they're way more problematic and don't last as long. Mm-hmm. That's a Scott theory for you.
That would make sense. Do you think that would be the same for like a surface piercing?
Not true at all, because there's a point A and point B, and that tube forms around it. And when I take my piercing out, you can still feel that tube of scar tissue in there. But when you take out a dermal anchor, I don't know. It's not the same. It's just not the same.
I agree. Maybe some scar tissue forms, but it's not like the same tube.
Correct.
Interesting. We've got a cool question from Naomi, and we will do our best to answer the second part of this.
Okay.
But hey, could you still get an anti-tragus piercing if your anti-tragus area is more flat/small? Could you show the smallest/flattest anti-tragus piercing that could be pierced?
You're pulling up anti-tragus pictures for us?
Yes.
Good,
yeah,
good.
Already got it.
All right. I saw you kind of floating over there on the computer. So, okay, so if you look in the upper right-hand corner, the one that says infinite body piercing, that is maybe it's the upper left-hand corner. Maybe I get my lefts and right different. But anyways, that looks like a perfect anti-tragus to pierce. Now, the one just to the next of it with the fake ring in there doesn't, that one. That doesn't look like it's quite big enough to pierce unless there's an actual ridge there. The one... So they're all everyone's anatomy is so different. If you look in the middle there, the one that says Mason Miru, that one right there, it doesn't look like there's a big prominent ridge, but there's plenty of tissue to be pierced. The one just to the next one that says Amazon, that one looks like it's probably going to reject out. I'd be surprised if it looks just too thin. I could be wrong. Now it looks better now you blow it up. 20 gauge, that's not good. You need to go bigger than that. So,
that is not an anti. Oh wait.
Yeah, the bottom one is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That threw me off actually because it's the transverse lobe. I thought that this was one piercing.
Yep. That's a weird transverse lobe.
It is.
Because you would think you normally go through the bottom where there's an actual ridge and you're trying to force it through a straight area. So that probably doesn't have a high hopes. I'm really trying to find the smallest possible.
That one looks rough.
Yeah. See, it just depends on how much of a ridge there is. Just because it doesn't stand up, conch removal, or anti-tragus removal, conch. That's gnarly.
BME.
Why?
John Durante.
To each your own. I know John. John's a really cool guy.
Here's a small one.
Yeah, but again, you can't see how deep it goes on the inside of the conch to see the depth.
Yeah, I don't know if we can show you what the smallest, flattest one.
Can you scroll up for a second?
Sure.
Like I saw my video right like there, like that one there says the whole truth anti-track. That is a snug.
I was thinking
but scroll down. And more, you'll see another one with my icon. And there's an I got to go look that up, see if we mislabeled that. That'd be embarrassing if we did. I just called it out in front of the whole world here. I don't care.
I'll double check it.
Okay. So.
Let's see. Maybe this one.
Again, you can't see the inside, how deep it goes in the conch. So, I'm sorry. I wish we can't find a minimum for you because they're all straight. There we go. Like, go to the one that says Reddit got my anti-tragus. Can you make that one bigger? Because, like, that, you can see how deep a conch can go inside the ear, like below the piercing, and that's what determines if you have the anatomy. That one sticks up quite a bit, but it doesn't have to stick up as long as it's going through the cartilage and not protruding. We're struggling
Kind
here.
of see this one.
Yeah.
But
We're gonna have to again
cool
look at that. Look at that one. That's definitely an anti-tragus at a really weird angle, but that's the shape of their ear. You know, everyone's ear anatomy is different.
that's cool anatomy.
So it is.
Sure.
It is.
Yeah, I think that's the best we're gonna do on that one.
Yeah. You're gonna have to talk to your piercer about this. Sorry, I can't give you a solid answer.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Let's see. Where are we? Lost my spot. Sorry
Lost
about
the
that.
spot. Yeah, if you guys haven't already, hit the like and subscribe. We totally appreciate that.
Yes, we appreciate
And
it very
for those of you just tuning in, my name's Scott. I'm a body piercer. We're going over a bunch of piercing questions. So if you got a question about piercing, let us know in the comments.
Yes. Alice Dornell says, "Hey Scott and fam." Hi Alice.
Hello. Welcome in.
I think this is Charlie, but it is CH666LIE. Hey, from the UK. What's the process of having your nostrils punched? What tools are used? And then they also asked advice on getting a reverse PA on an uncut phallus.
Okay. First of all, punching your nostrils, you can either pierce them or you can punch them. Mine were actually pierced with 6-gauge needles, and then over the years, I stretched it up to this size. A biopsy punch is basically like a razor blade in the shape of a circle, and you punch and you remove the tissue. This is generally legal in most areas because you're removing tissue, and I believe that's almost practicing medicine without a license. So this is going to be something underground. You're not going to find shops really offering this unless there is no laws or anything. But it's still scary because that's how you lose your license as a piercer. With this, it's permanent. You know, you're punching and removing tissue. If I'm doing a piercing, I make that incision, and if you don't like it, it can go back and you're just gonna have a scar. But with a biopsy punch, the skin's not gonna fill that gap because it's all been removed. So it's a scary thing. It better be really, really straight and done right the first time because there's no redoing those. As far as what was the piercing for uncut?
Reverse PA.
Probably not. The skin that kind of goes over the top of the head when you're uncircumcised, like in the middle of your head, you're going to have a bar sticking out, and it's probably just going to hit and block it. It's kind of the same thing with the Ampang apodravia. It's going to be really tough to heal because you have to have extra room for that. I mean, maybe. I'd have to check anatomy to really know, but it's going to cause problems, and it doesn't make it easier.
Awesome. Thank you. Soup Kitchen Richard asks, I love that name. When you stretch earlobes, are they losing tissue? Like the bigger you go, do ears inherently thin out? Is it possible to thicken them?
Massaging them on a regular basis keeps the blood flowing. The problem with stretching, a lot of us do, is we overstretch things and we cut off the blood supply, and you can almost sometimes create rips and tears, which will thin the tissue. Can you look up Shaman Bear for me? Mm-hmm. See if Shaman Bear Piercer is from Austin, Texas. He used to have regular earlobes back in the day, and he got his ears stretched up to 6.5, 7.5 inches, somewhere huge. Some of the biggest I've ever seen in my personal life. And yeah, so you can see like arms going through there. No, that's Pineapple.
That is Pineapple.
And then Shaman Bear's the guy with.
I'm trying to get there.
Right there. Yep.
Yep. That's yep.
So your ears can get pretty darn huge, and they will go back to a normal, won't go back to a normal size, but you can keep regenerating. But that takes a long time to get to that caliber.
Pineapple's the man, by the way.
Yeah, Pineapple's super cool too. He'll be at APP most likely.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a friend named Jade that works at Shaman.
Yeah?
It's awesome. Yeah, Jade Winston. She's an amazing piercer.
I lost one of my piercers, Travis. He moved down to Austin, Texas, and went to work for Pineapple. So I'm really glad he went to a good shop.
It's a stellar shop for sure.
Yep. Shaman Mods is the name of Pineapple. He's got a couple shops down there, I think.
I think so. Yeah, I think they've got a few locations now. Sarah says, I'm currently healing 2 forward helix piercings, which I love, but the tenderness is making me question my life choices. I know that feeling.
I always, when the triple forward helix, which is kind of the front of the ear up here, they look beautiful, but people don't understand the path to get to that healing process. If you got all 3 done at once, it's pretty intense. So what I like to do is do one upper one and one lower one, so each one doesn't put as much pressure on each other. And then when they're healed up, then I do the middle one. It's a little longer healing process, but it's not as intense. If you're okay with the intense healing process, get all 3 done at once.
That's how I feel. I'd rather just go in and get one and done.
But again, you're going to question life choices. Like, do I really want to? Like, you're already there. You just kind of stick it through. The more you keep swelling down on those, the easier it is. Ibuprofen, Aleve, Advil. You can do cold soaks on there to kind of help reduce the swelling. The more you reduce the swelling, the less pressure you get on each of those piercings. So it's just a vicious cycle. This one's swollen, so it puts pressure on this one, which is swollen, which puts pressure on this one. Now they're all swollen and causing each other to be more swollen. So get the swelling down.
Awesome. We got a $5 donation from Luna de Blue, who mentioned, they were the person that was talking about being in Las Vegas. They're going to be here May 21st through the 24th, which I double checked. I believe those are Kelsey days.
Kelsey days. Okay. So when is?
It's a Tuesday through Friday.
Tuesday through Friday. I work on Fridays. It depends on what time you leave.
You are blocked off that Friday. I think we blocked you off for me.
For you.
Yeah.
For you. Send us a message.
Yeah, if you send us a message on Instagram to the shop, we might be able to get you in on the 24th.
Yeah, we can try to figure something out for you.
Cool. Let's see.
See, you just got to ask people. Reach out and ask us.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for the $5 donation.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Let's see. From Alexandra. Hi, Scott. I got my navel pierced around 2.5 months ago. It has an irritation bump because it keeps moving around. Would you recommend shortening the bar because the one that I got pierced with feels too long?
There generally is a little tiny bit of room because when you're standing up, your skin's like this, but when you lay down, things can stretch out. So if you're laying down and you still have a lot of bar showing, maybe downsize it. But the big question I have is, what kind of pants are you wearing? Are you wearing high-waisted pants where it's rubbing up against it all the time? Because that's a bigger source of a problem than a bar that's slightly too long. But it also depends on what too long is. If you have over half the bar showing, that's way too long. You should have just a little tiny bit of metal sticking out of there max. So, yeah, check with your piercer, make sure it's not too long. But also, like I said, when you lay down, take your camera and do kind of like a belly selfie, and just see if it looks, because when you lay down, if everything's tight, you can't go shorter bar because when you stand up, it's the same thing happens all the time with tongue piercings. People always like, my tongue piercing, you can see the bar, and you're sticking your tongue out, and it's like, yeah, but you have to make your tongue fat. And it has to accommodate for that as well, because it's not always going to be the super skinny in your tongue, in your mouth like that. Same thing with belly button. Like when you lay down, anatomy shifts and changes. So you have to accommodate for that as well. So look into both of those. If it's way too long, definitely go get a shorter bar and make sure your pants aren't rubbing up against it. That's the biggest issue with navel piercings.
This is really random, but I don't know if I can make my tongue fat like in the way that you did just now. Like,
really?
Maybe I just did it. I don't know.
The other thing too is like when you pull your tongue back in your mouth, that it gets really fat when it gets back there too.
That makes sense. Interesting.
So the tongue changes shape quite a bit.
It does. Yeah, I didn't realize. I remember you. I think you showed me on a client actually, and because I was like, oh, don't they need to downsize? And you had them make their tongue fat, and it was flush. I was
Yep.
Like, woo. Okay.
Ooh, yeah, you don't want to downsize. So then the beads get sucked into the tongue, and you have big divots in your tongue. So
yeah, don't want that.
Yep.
Anastasia said, I was pierced by the same person multiple times and was told to use contact solution with antibacterial soap. My piercing is healing well after switching to Neomed. That sounds accurate.
Not all piercers continue their education. And some people are like, oh, I go to APP every 5 or 10 years, or they've got, but if you really need to keep up with it. Here in Las Vegas, they say that we legally have to suggest antibacterial soap. So I do suggest cleaning around the area, but I don't suggest getting it inside the piercing because that causes a problem. But you also need to keep the area clean. If you ever had an operation done and you had stitches or sutures on your arm, they don't tell you to clean it with soap and water. I said, keep it out of the water. Let your body do the healing. Piercing's kind of the same situation. Now, the saline solution, contact solution, you think it's kind of the same thing. It's close, but a lot of times there's a little extra preservatives, sometimes a couple other chemicals in with the contact solution. Now, but the issue, or the thing that we do, let's see if I can show this here. Like this is H2 Ocean here. You see how it comes out? That one's empty.
Bummer.
Yeah. These have all been sitting here for a while. Did they go bad? There, that's a good mist. I'm really glad I didn't spray the camera on. That would have been really bad. But yeah, so it comes out in a nice gentle mist. Everything's contained inside the container, so it's sterile. Now, your contact solution just has a screw on top, so it has, it's not as sterile. That's the same thing we were talking about, this Briotech thing here, saying how some people love it, some people don't. But if it opens up like that, it can't stay sterile because now there's airborne pathogens in there. So that's kind of the difference. And sometimes just less is more, like soap is really, really harsh, putting all these chemicals on there. And it's just like, just get the crusties off there without introducing other pathogens, other germs, and keeping it nice and mellow with the chemicals. Because the chemicals, people don't realize this. This doesn't heal your piercing for you. This prevents problems. Your body does the healing. So if you want to heal it faster, multivitamins, zinc supplements, not introducing off, making sure it's not getting irritated. So if you have ear piercing, not wearing helmets or big earphones that are pressing up against your piercing. These are all the biggest factors which everyone overlooks. Be healthy and don't let your piercing get irritated, and it should heal up pretty nice. I've been doing this a while.
It's true. From Ursula's Odds and Sods, would you recommend buying jewelry change tools like insertion tapers, tweezers, and pliers, or is it best to see a piercer to change hard-to-reach piercings and trickier jewelry?
I'm all for the tools. Like little pliers, like bead-holding pliers, things like that. You got to be careful with the bead-holding pliers because there's some that have like really sharp claws, and those sharp claws can sometimes rip or tear the area around there and also scratch up your jewelry. So you got to be careful what you're putting on your jewelry so you don't scratch or irritate that or your skin. Now, as far as like little hemostats to hold on, like for nostril piercings, if you're using threadless jewelry, most people's fingers don't fit inside your nose to hang onto the disc to be able to pull it apart. But if you have that little tool which holds onto that disc on the inside, you just pop that top off, grab a new one, and then you have the counter pressure, and it's just way easier. There's a little bit of a learning curve to learning how to do it, but if you have these piercings, you need to be able to change your jewelry if you need to. And that's, we're always here to try to help you out when we can, but sometimes emergencies happen. 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's like you break your collarbone and you need an x-ray, and the doctor's like, you need to take these things out. It's nice to have those tools to be able to remove them if you need to. And getting the jewelry back in there is really tough. So having that taper, can you show us what a pin taper is? Can you see if that'll show up? Type in piercing pin taper. And this is like a little tool where the jewelry can kind of butt up to the end. It's a nice gradual stretch to go put things in there. If you put the jewelry in, because the jewelry has a straight edge on there, sometimes it just stops. But you see how, looking for a pin taper. Those are threaded ones, like the ones with the tongue there. There you go. Click on that one. So, like, those are not needles at the top. The bottom one's a needle, but see how there's threads on the end, or it's going to be a pin? The jewelry can attach to that, and it just allows you to go nice and thin up to the same thickness, and then just pull the jewelry in so you don't have to worry about losing the jewelry. The one you're right there, eBay in stock, those are like pin tapers right there. Are those threaded?
Those are threaded.
They are threaded. Pin, there we go. Body Jewelry Factory. Yeah, those are pin tapers, what you're pointing to right now on Amazon. So, yeah. And the thing is like this is G23 titanium. It's not the optimum metal to be wearing in your body, but it's a tool to help you get it in and out, and you're not wearing it, so you're not going to have any problems with the metal. Now, tapers back in the 90s and 2000s, people wore those in their ears as jewelry, and I always thought it's like wearing a hammer as jewelry. It's just, it's a tool. You should use the tool for its purpose and then wear the jewelry. Tapers aren't meant to wear long term. They really aren't.
It's true.
Yep.
Also not meant to stretch with, at least at home.
Correct. It's so easy to overdo things, and a proper stretch doesn't hurt. So it's a nice gradual, like you put it in and it should feel a little snug, but if it hurts, you did damage.
Yep. We've got a question from John Parr. Hey, I got my lobes pierced a while ago. A cyst formed near one of them during the healing process.
Okay.
And there's still a hard spot there, like cartilage. Do you think it will interfere if I decide to stretch?
Depends on how much scar tissue is there and how old your piercing is. I mean, if it's still only a couple months old, give it some time and that scar tissue will probably dissipate and get a little bit better. If you've had it for years, massage your ears. You know, take the jewelry out, massage them, and that'll help break down that scar tissue, and then you'll able to be stretched a lot easier without all that scar tissue in there. But sometimes cysts, bumps, things like that happen, and they will leave a little residual scar tissue behind, but it's not the end of the world.
Got it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tina is talking about the conch piercing. She said it's been 6 months, but it gets irritated immediately if I put a ring in it, so I'm waiting.
Wait longer. That's exactly it. You got to use common sense. It hurts, go back. You know, it's that simple. And sometimes it does take over a year. You know, we tell people minimum times when you can change to the ring. And so many people, I tell people like nostril piercings, probably like 4, maybe 5 months minimum before you even, so, okay, I'll mark my calendar, 4 months, I'm coming in for a ring. I'm like, no. If it's healed and it's ready, we'll do it. But if there's crusties, redness, soreness, you're not ready. And like, okay, so 5 months then? And it's like, maybe. Don't make the appointment until it's ready.
Yep. Sarah Wardle is chiming in when we were talking about the damaging the family jewels.
Yes.
She was talking about tissue damage, not getting the piercing specifically.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yes.
And Soup Kitchen Richard also wanted to chime in on that and say that they can attest to getting genital jewelry, which is multifaceted. Part of me wants to do it for the crazy aspect. The other part of me wants to do it because it makes me feel more attractive.
Again, it's what makes you feel good, and that's what piercing and tattoos and all this body mod is all about. You know, people also look at body mod like it could be bodybuilding, it could be, you know, like growing your nails out, growing your hair out, you know, operations like liposuction or maybe a facelift. All these things make us feel better about ourselves, and we feel better about ourselves, we're more successful in life and everything.
Absolutely, I love that.
You got to feel good about yourself.
It's true. Brick Johnson said, got my navel pierced about 12 days ago and plan on getting a second scrotum piercing soon.
Sweet. Navel piercing for the first time. We don't... Said Brick?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm curious what you got. Is this... or if it's a guy or a girl? Probably a guy.
They said second scrotum piercing.
That's... Yeah, okay, so. Cool. Yeah, awesome. Scrotum piercing, super easy to heal. You're going to find the navel's a rougher one to heal than the scrotum. It doesn't seem like it would be, but it is.
It's true.
Yep. I talked about this last week, so is it doing a little better, Nova?
I would say it's about the same, which is pretty good considering I've been getting punched in the stomach like at least two times a week for an hour.
You signed up for this.
Yeah, I did. I got into doing Muay Thai, which is like Thai kickboxing. Well, not just kickboxing. You got elbows and stuff in there, but yeah, it's like, all right, we're gonna take body shots today. It's like, sick.
Goody.
Today's a bad day to have an 8-gauge navel piercing.
Yeah. But congratulations on your new piercing. That's pretty awesome.
Always fun.
Yeah.
Delilah asks, just curious what your process is for piercing dahlias. I've had them done 3 times, and I want to know your technique. And she was saying, and it's a bar connected by 2 high nostril piercings. So yeah, kind of what we expected. Sort of like a chain, but a bar instead.
So dahlia piercing is kind of like the corner of the mouth here. It's not like a cheek, but it's like on the very edge. Easy to freehand them, but the tissue manipulates and rolls real easily. And I want to try to get my angles as perfectly as possible. It needs to be... I can't really go over the technique too well, but I pierce, I clamp it, pierce it, and then like put in a librette, and you have to have oversized jewelry. Generally, I do 14 gauge. I have done 16, but 14 seems to work better. I'm trying to think what else here. Yeah, and it's just like you just got to look at the person's mouth. I mean, because like when they close their mouth, where is the bar going to rest? You don't want the disc going up against the teeth if you can help it. It's going to be oversized, but you need to be able to plan for the future and be able to downsize and not have them cause any problems. I've had fairly good luck with my dahlias. But yeah, I clamp them. I just feel like I have way more control and get it in that exact spot to make sure that it's lined up. Because when they're off, they're definitely off.
It's true.
You can tell. So.
Yep, and they have a tendency to scar, so
They do.
The scars will be off too. From Jessica. Hey Scott, not a question, but watching your videos help me build up the confidence to get the piercings I want without other people's opinions.
Good.
I love your videos and appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad we were able to help you out here. You're not alone. Everyone is scared of when they get pierced, whether they admit it or not, and you're always nervous about what society is going to say. But as a community, our community is growing bigger and bigger, and it's more and more socially accepted. I never thought I would see the day to where it is today. Because, I mean, when I first started piercing and I had my face pierced back in the 90s, I'd be standing in line at a grocery store and mothers were pulling their children away from me. People were just like I messed up the whole world. People were getting handed wrong change to the wrong person. You know, it was unbelievable, the chaos it created. And now it's the social norm. So we all accept you. And the thing is when you're confident and you feel better about yourself, the world will treat you better too. You know, when you're all shy and kind of like, you know, no, but I find that when I'm out places and I have a bigger smile, I get so many people coming up to me and talking to me. It makes a big, big difference, the confidence. And you'll find life is just much, much better that way. So I'm glad you had the courage to do it, and I'm glad you actually did it. You should feel proud of yourself.
You should. Agreed. Quickly chiming in, Alice, you mentioned that you're noticing that the sound is going in and out a little bit and wondered if it was happening for everybody. Yeah, it is. Sorry, we're working on it. We're trying to narrow it down to figure out what's going on. But it's been happening the last couple live streams for some reason.
What is the thing? What does it keep saying to us? It says our bit rate.
Yeah, I took pictures. We'll talk after the stream, see if
I was going to say, if anyone knows anything. We keep lowering our what are we lowering?
Yeah, lowering our bit rate.
It says we're still coming in way too high, so that's why things I think are cutting out. We're trying to figure this out.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Thank you for letting us know.
Let's see. Fabian says, "Love your which piercing should I get?" And by the way, greetings from Germany.
Right on. Welcome in. Those are a lot of fun videos to do. They're a lot of work. That's why I don't put them out, and I've just been too busy to do them. So hopefully in the future we'll figure something out for you guys again, because I know we have requests for them.
Yep, we're working on it. Let's see. Tammy says, "Hi, Scott."
Hi, Tammy.
Funky also says, "Hey, Scott."
What's up, Funky?
Or no, maybe it's not Funky. Maybe it's Fun KY. I don't know. I'm
Fun
gonna go with
KY?
Funky.
Okay.
Fun_KY. Just wondering how you think snake bites and angel bites combo would look.
I think, yeah, that turns into canine bites then.
I believe so.
Snake bites are lower, and then angel bites are up top, and I think the four together is considered to be canine bites. I think they look really, really good. You can do a lot with the placement. You know, whether they're... Can you change angles so straight on me?
Sure.
So, like, if you kind of angle them this way a little bit, it's going to give a slight look. You can angle them out that way. It's going to give it a completely different look. My friend Shane used to have the angel bites and then the snake bites, but his snake bites were in further, and he also had his philtrum pierced. So it kind of created a W. The name of his shop is Wingnut, and he's like, I did it for the W, you know, but it's like, I think he got lucky. So
that's pretty cool, though.
But yeah, the angles of those things change everything. So you can play with the angles, play with markers, you know, like, or makeup or whatever at home, and see what you like before you even go in. Because sometimes piercers don't realize, you know, like, oh, normally angel bites have to go here. No, they don't. They can be placed in a bunch of different areas, whatever is most aesthetically pleasing, as long as it's not rubbing directly up against gums or your teeth that way. Same thing with snake bites. Like when I had mine done, you can't really see, but they were way out there. But that's how we did them back in the 90s. I got mine done by a master piercer at the Gauntlet back in the day. And if you looked at the placement now, you'd be like, who did those? I'm like, one of the best, you know, so it's personal preference.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. Silently judging you.
Every
asks,
time. Yeah, I hear that. I'm just like, oh, what are you thinking?
So I asked a while ago about waiting to redo a snug. Since then, I've noticed that the ridge is wider than before. I'm confused.
Okay. Sometimes you heal that fistula, which is that tube of scar tissue, and it doesn't necessarily always go away. And if that scar tissue kind of keeps it a little wider, it might just remain that way a little bit. A lot of times the swelling does go back to a lot more closer to normal, but I have seen that before where it's slightly thicker. If you use some sort of a scar tissue remover, that could help. Like Mederma is the one that I like the most. Mederma Extreme Scar Gel, I think, is what they sell on Amazon. But there's other brands as well. It depends on how long it's been out too, but I would say a good 6 months to a year for things to even get close to back to normal, because it does take a while, and massage it. Yep. But you're right. Sometimes they do stay a little thicker, because that's what we say in our disclaimer when you get pierced. Is like, this can permanently change or alter your body. And we're not just saying like, oh, because you have jewelry in there, it's altered. It's like when you take it out, there's scar tissue and things adjust and change to where it needs to be. For example, nipple piercings. Some people who have very inverted nipples will come in and get pierced, and they don't even keep the jewelry in. They just want to get to the point where it's healed because they have that tube of scar tissue. You take the bar out, and instead of the nipple getting sucked back into the breast, it actually stays out now. So it's actually kind of a medical fix, which is pretty darn cool. So.
Awesome. Funky was asking if you have any horror stories to do with clitoris piercings. I assume VCH or HCH piercings, not specifically clitoral piercings.
Okay, so the horror story here did not happen to me. I was getting trained by Fakir Mushafar in the Fakir Intensives course, and he was talking about it, how he had a friend. Fakir Mushafar said he had a friend who came in and she wanted him to check on her actual clitoris piercing. And when he looked at it, it was black and dying and basically falling off. So she lost all sensitivity forever, and it was a horrible, horrible thing. Now, the actual clitoris a lot of times isn't large enough to support a piercing, because the piercing needle can actually cut off the blood supply, which basically kills it. You know, so I will never, ever, ever, ever do an actual clitoris piercing. Now, I've been piercing 30 years at this point, and I've seen maybe 3 or 4 in my entire lifetime, you know, and I think what had happened is people go into a regular tattoo shop. I'm not dissing tattoo shops, but a lot of tattoo artists are not piercers. And if you go say, hey, I want to get my clit pierced, bam, you actually get your clit pierced. And most of the time it's the VCH, which is the vertical clitoral hood, which is the flap of skin. So you're not actually piercing that part. That's what 99.9% of the people actually have. So if someone says, yeah, I have my clit pierced, probably not. It's probably a VCH or a horizontal hood piercing, which is sideways, where you wear a ring and the ring rests on the clitoris itself. So that's a pretty big horror story, and that scarred me for life. He said he saw it physically with his own eyes, and it just terrified me. So that's the most dangerous thing. Now, as far as other horror stories,
I also just want to interject and say that specifically was for a clitoral piercing.
Yes, not a hood.
VCH, yeah.
Not a hood piercing or VCH or HCH. Now, other horror stories, like people have come in and say, yeah, I need my VCH changed. And they come in and I'm looking at the piercing going, well, it's not a VCH. It's not really a labia. It's not really a triangle. So I suppose you can probably name this one because the piercer just found a random flap of skin and pierced you. That's the worst case scenario I've ever really seen. I've seen piercings that have gotten infected, but you take them out, antibiotics, and you're back to normal. So there's not a real big risk as long as you're not piercing the actual clitoris. And there's always a risk with piercing because it's bloodborne pathogens. One of the other big concerns I would have, which I haven't seen personally, but it's like if you got a fresh piercing and you're excited to use it, it's an open wound. So you are way more prone to different diseases, you know, STDs, things like that. So you got to be careful and be careful who you're with, you know, because if it's an open wound, any fluid, just, you got it. So that's why you need to be careful. And that's what scares me the most about a lot of genital piercings. Too many people are impatient, like, I got this, I got to go try it out tonight. And I'm like, no, don't. If it hurts, you're doing damage. Like, I'm tough, I can take it. It's more the guy mentality than anything, but for real. So, but no real horror stories. Yeah. Piercings might look crooked, get in the wrong spot, an occasional infection, but any piercing can get infected. So, yeah, there you go. A little story time for you. I'm sorry if I scarred your brain.
Or didn't scar your brain enough.
Yeah.
Pirelli was mentioned. He said regarding the reverse PA for uncut question.
Yes.
He said an alternative would probably be a foreskin piercing on the top.
Yes. Yes.
And he also mentioned you guys were talking about the hidden helixes last time. How long is the discount deal going for? I've actually never done a hidden helix before, but if you would like to be my first, that'd be fun.
How long are we going to do this? Next couple weeks? 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think it's going to be on like. I don't think we have like a
set schedule.
A set schedule. It's just I'm taking clients like on the books, but not on the online appointments. We're just booking via Instagram right now.
So it depends on how many piercings he gets. I mean, if he's only doing 1 or 2 a week, it might be several weeks before we're releasing him into the wild, you know. But if he completely books out, you know, it could be fairly quick.
Yes, so sooner rather than later.
But yeah, if it's a new piercing that Nova hasn't done, we'll definitely give you a deal if you wanted to have him do it, because we all need to learn. And if it's the first time, it's, you know, it'll be safe, it'll be fast, but it's just we'll take care of you.
Yep, I'm excited. I know exactly how to do them. It's basically just like half of an industrial, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just a slightly different angle. I mean, it's the same push. It's nothing. Yeah.
Nothing crazy. Cool. Gabby,
man, I just had to replace a hidden helix the other day that I did a week or two ago because they way over swelled. I was surprised at how much that one did. So we need to make sure we give enough room for swelling. I think I put in on 9/32. I was like, because it was paper thin. I was like, God, I can almost do a 1/4 inch. And they came in and we ended up putting a 3/8 inch bar in there because it was so swollen. I was like, whew.
Got it.
Yeah. So if you're a piercer, you understand those numbers. That's a big jump. That's really swollen.
So what do you think, 5/16 for initial?
5/16 I think is now going to be my absolute minimum. Cool. It doesn't matter how thin it is. With the amount of swelling that person had, it's like it's not worth it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Cool. Gabby said, Gabby672 says, I'm trying to get my mom to let me get a helix piercing done. I got my nose pierced last year, and is there really much of a difference between nose cartilage and ear cartilage?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. The helix piercing is definitely a way longer healing process. Sometimes the minimum is 6 months to a year. Nostrils, a lot of times they seem healed after a couple months. So there's a big, big difference. Lifestyle, you know, are you involved with school activities, sports, things like that? Because you said if you're waiting for your mom to give permission, I'm assuming you're under 18. And, you know, some sports, dance, things like that don't allow those piercings to be in. And if you have a year-long healing process, that stops you from being a kid and having fun while you're in school. I mean, you hear it all the time, like say, be as young as long as you can. And helix piercings scare me because it's such a commitment. You know, if you're 16 years old, you're committing 1/16 of your life to heal one piercing up. And when you say it like that, you're like, wow, you know?
Yep.
So, but, you know, and then once you get older and you get like into a job or something where it's like you're not involved with dance or sports to where you need to take it out, that's kind of the situation.
There you go.
Yep.
I think that's good advice. Let's see.
Sorry about my phone beeping there. I got to turn that down. I forgot to. Yeah, turn your phones down, people.
Colin Wilson asks, hi, Scott. I got a conch and a helix on the same ear the other day.
Okay.
And I've had trouble with the long bars getting snagged in my hair while showering. Any advice healing both of these? Thank you.
What is it getting caught on?
His hair. And it's a conch and a helix.
Okay. You have to have the room for the swelling. If it's only a day old, you're still going to swell quite a bit more. So be patient with it. After a month or so, if it seems like they're still getting caught, then you should downsize. But right now it depends on it. Like, did you get pierced by like me back in the 90s where I put a 5/8 inch bar in you? You know, so it depends on how much is sticking out. If it's ridiculous, talk to your piercer, maybe get a shorter one. But generally, we want to give it at least a month before you can think about downsizing. And in the meantime, just be careful. It sounds like you might have curly hair. And if you have that curly hair that's wrapping in there, it's a rougher healing process. It's the price we pay for beauty sometimes.
It's true.
Yep.
It's true. Also, I just want to mention to Luna de Blue, who was going to send us a message on on Instagram. I want to be specific. Mention. Sorry, I can't talk today.
Words are hard.
They are hard. I want to specifically mention to message or DM the shop page, which is piercing.vegas, not piercing with.
Yes.
And we should be able to get you sorted one of those days.
Good call. Thanks for the little correction there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Funky also said, finally, I would like to let you know that it is my life goal to get pierced by you. I have a long way to travel and lots to save up, but you guys are worth it. Sending love from UK, Yorkshire.
That is amazing. Yeah, if you ever make it here, I would love to pierce you. The added bonus, we're in Las Vegas. There's a lot of fun things to do here. You come get pierced, you have some of the best foods in the world, some of the best shows, the best entertainment. I love Las Vegas, and I love living here. And one of the biggest perks of living here is I get to pierce people from all over the world because everyone travels here. When you come into my shop, I actually have a sign up, like a big map of the United States and a map of the entire world. It says, we pierce the whole world. We've got little pins, and people put them in so you can see from all over the world people have been pierced by us. So it'll be super, super fun. And yeah, let me know when you're ready. I'd love to put a hole in you.
Yes, indeed.
I get to say the strangest things to people.
It's true.
Yeah.
Matthew says, I have a question. My 4-gauge septum is healed and well stabilized, but I got hit in the nose, and now the ring hangs crooked. What can I do? Should I let it close and get it re-pierced?
No. You got hit in the nose. Is it recently? Because if you're swollen, it might be hanging a little bit crooked. If it's really sore, you might have created a bump, which could be causing that swelling to kind of go off to one side. Maybe downsize. Try downsizing one size. If you're at 4-gauge, go down to the 6-gauge. That might be loose enough to like take the pressure off there, get rid of a bump or any of the swelling. If it just recently happened, give it some time, because it's probably going to get better with time.
But I don't think a fistula can like change shape based on impact, unless that's
it ripped.
I guess unless it ripped, but even if it did rip, I feel
you would know.
Yeah, you would know, and I also I feel like it would just probably heal up back into the same. So yeah. I'm with you, Scott. I think that maybe there's some swelling there,
or a bump, which is kind of pushing it to look crooked. Which means once you get rid of the bump, it'll go right back to normal.
Yep, but yeah, take your time.
If you're not sure, go see your piercer. We love looking up people's nostrils and kind of playing around with someone's nose.
It's true.
We do. I'm not saying it's.
No, we do. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, actually.
I would still be. It's one of the perks of my job. Here come the finger.
Love it. Jesse James says, hello from New Brunswick, Canada. Hope you guys are doing well.
We're doing pretty darn good. Hope you're doing pretty well up there, too.
Yes, indeedy. Tiger Cub asks, what's up, Scott? Do you know if ear scalpeling is legal in any part of the U.S.?
I doubt it. Most states, I believe, at this point have regulations on body piercing. And there's been a lot of things as the piercing community has grown to make things legal. Like the clamps we use, like the Pennington 4-steps. I know we had to like take the little sharp edges off, not the sharp edges, but the little teeth that go click, click, click to kind of clamp things down. Now that those have been removed, now it's been modified for piercing use, and now it's a piercing tool, not a medical tool. The piercing needles have been evolved to, the tri-bevel and the cutting of the hub. So now it's a piercing needle. It's not a medical tool. Using a scalpel is using a scalpel, and I'm not sure where the line gets crossed into practicing medicine, but I'm pretty darn sure it's illegal everywhere. The loophole is some places have laws saying it is illegal. Some places don't have any laws saying anything, and that's where it gets kind of gray and shady because they can still come after you. It's like, just because it doesn't say you can't do it doesn't mean you can. So
there you go.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards it's probably illegal most everywhere.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one.
Sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately. Taco Cat is a palindrome, asks, I know you recommend flipping the circular barbell into the nose for better healing during the septum piercing. Would that change the shape of the fistula so that when it's healed, the ring won't hang right?
I don't believe so. And that's why I say it will actually work. The septum itself is pretty paper thin. It's not very thick. Now, if you had your septum pierced and it hurt really bad because they hit all the cartilage above it and below it is much, much thicker, and that would change the shape. But if you actually hit the actual septum, it's paper thin and you can flip it up and down and it never ever hurts. So it shouldn't change the shape of the actual fistula. I understand what you're saying though. Like for a doth piercing, I don't pierce with curved barbells because if it curves in, you heal it at the wrong complete angle and you can't put it. I have never ever ever seen that with a septum piercing that was pierced properly. Now, if it's too high up or too low through all the thick cartilage, yes, that will affect it. And then also it kind of depends on the ring size. I mean, if you got pierced really, really low on your septum and you had a 1/4 inch ring, you're going to have a lot of curve going through there. Generally, if you have at least 2/3 of the ring or more showing, there's not that much curvature through the actual piercing site. So that's kind of how that works. The septum's one of the thinnest spots in the body that you can actually get pierced. So.
Awesome.
Did I word that right?
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Okay, thank you.
I think you nailed it.
Sometimes I need to double check. Sometimes I'm just like, I just talk. I'm like, that made sense in my head, but did it make sense to you guys?
I think it made sense.
Good.
But feel free to chime in if it didn't.
Great question. I think that's one of the big arguments out there is like, you don't want to change the shape of that fistula, but I think it's going to heal straight, as a straight tube because there's such little amount of tissue actually pierced.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Like you say, it's so thin that there isn't a whole lot of tissue to change.
Yep.
From Bodhisaba 3. Hey, Scott, how are you? What length and piercing gauge do you recommend for a traditional tongue piercing?
Okay, so generally, most of the time, I use a 3/4 of an inch barbell, which is the length, and I like to use 5mm beads because I don't want anything too small of a bead because it could get sucked in and kind of create a little bit of a dimple. I have pierced as short as 11/16 before, but it's a lot tougher to find that barbell in that size, and 3/4, I don't think that little extra more actually hurts. Some people have come in and I've actually had to pierce them with like a 7/8 or even up to a 1 inch before. 1 inch, extremely rare. 7/8 once every 4 or 5 months maybe. So most of the time 3/4 of an inch. Now, I think 12 gauge is better than 14. And like we were talking earlier with the whole conch situation, 16 or 14, which one's better? Jewelry comes in 16 gauge for conches. For tongues, they always come in 14. If you go to any store, everyone always sells 14 5/8 inch barbells as the tongue normal size. A lot of people do wear that size. The thicker post is going to less of that bump on your tongue. A lot of times if you have your tongue pierced, you can see that little flap of skin right in front of it or behind your piercing. And that's where we make the crescent incision and push it off to the side, and that's what creates that flap. At a larger size, like a 12 gauge, you're less likely to have that and less chance of it ripping and tearing during the healing process too. But not many people carry the 12 gauge, and a lot of people are afraid of sizes. That's one thing I found out, because if most of society knows that you get pierced your tongue at a 14 and they come to me and like, whoa, Scott's doing a 12. And I'm like, trust me, it's better. Trust kind of goes out the window. So unfortunately, society deemed that 14 is the more common. But I personally think 12 is a little bit better. Not a ton, but a little bit.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I also like nipples and bridge piercings at 12s.
Bridge for sure. That one I cannot say enough. Like every time I've done a larger bridge, they seem to heal much, much quicker. Mm-hmm. For those of you who are doing like 16 gauge bridge piercings, like, the bumps and the irritation, they just don't heal. A minimum 14, preferably a 12. And then nipple piercings, kind of depends on the anatomy of the body. Sometimes if a guy comes in with a very underdeveloped nipple, like putting a 12 gauge in there feels like he might cut off the nipple.
That's true too.
So you got to be careful. We don't want to cut off nipples.
Indeed. Speak for yourself.
Hey, I got a little story here. There's a guy in town here, not a very good piercer. You'll understand by this story. And this one guy came into our shop and was like, yeah, I went to this one place and he pierced my nipple. And he basically just cut my nipple off because I think he tried piercing it too big. So it was like barely like flapping there, like literally cut the nipple where it's barely on. And the dude super glued it back on the spot.
Whoa.
True story.
Insane.
Do your homework, people. Go to the right place. That's a true story. Vegas piercing. Terrible. Terrible. If the city would only enforce these laws. I'm going to talk to the city this week.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the 30th.
Yep. So.
Let's see.
Sorry, that story popped in my head. I'm not mentioning any names, but.
Yeah, no, it's wild. It's wild, some of the stuff that you've seen out here. And in the 2 years that I've been here, it's been pretty wild.
The part I didn't say about the story, I was like, didn't you read any reviews before you went? He's like, yeah, but I didn't think they could be that bad. Kind of what you deserved, It's like, yeah.
That's wild. It's like, he only has 1-star reviews. I'm sure it's fine.
There's no way that's real. No one can have that low rating. He earned it.
Apparently.
Yep.
Alexandra Spielman chiming in about the high-waisted pants on navel piercings. She said she does stay away from those. She thinks she's having trouble with it because she bends over a lot at work.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people work in warehouses, like you have boxes hitting it. If you're a cook, leaning up against counters, is that right at that right height? There's so many factors. You just got to look at it. And sometimes when your belly button's pierced, if it's pierced at that angle where if you bend over and the jewelry's being pushed or moved, it's real tough to heal. So sometimes it's better to go with more of the floating navel if it's kind of being bent right at that spot. But it depends on your anatomy. It's really hard to determine what's the best floating versus regular.
It's true.
Yeah.
Silently Judging You is talking about the contact solution.
Yes.
They said that it used to come in a dropper, but still wouldn't want that in a wound. Amen.
Yes. I mean, it's close. It's saline, but there's other chemicals, and it's not as clean as it should be. And why isn't it sterile? It's going in your eyes.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
I just put 2 and 2 together there.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Katie Rundle says, "Hi guys, my tragus jewelry came out recently and it was only a couple weeks old, so of course it closed immediately.
Yep.
How long do I have to wait to get it redone?"
I tell people a minimum of a month. The more you get rid of that scar tissue and the redness, the better off you're going to be. Now, if you go in to get your tragus re-pierced and you can still see that redness around there, the redness, when I find them re-pierced next to it, it never goes away. So it's never going to look healed. It'll always look red. So you need your skin looking as close to normal as possible. So I want you, once the wound closes, get in there with your fingers, you can massage it. If you have vitamin E oil pills, a lot of people will pop those open with a little needle, put that vitamin E oil, that'll break down the scar tissue. You can buy Mederma. But the key is to massage it, get it to look as close to normal as possible. Again, I said a minimum of a month, but if it's still red or has a bump, give it a little bit longer. And if it looks good after, 3-4 weeks and it seems like there's no redness and you just see a little tiny bit of a scar from the old piercing, you're ready. Yep.
Heck yes.
Heck yes.
Ellen Farrelly says, "I love this guy."
I love you too, Ellen.
We love
Thanks,
you too.
Nova. Wait, was she talking to me or you?
Definitely me.
Definitely you, yeah. I love Nova too.
Schmello, or SH Mello, said, "Hi, Baby Piercer here from Orlando. I was wondering how you personally determine if someone has the anatomy for a floating navel. I can identify standard anatomy, but get nervous when looking for floating."
Okay, Nova, do you want to pull up some floating navel piercings here? This is a fantastic question because, like I was just saying earlier, it's hard to determine what the right anatomy is. I feel like there's proper anatomy for a regular navel, proper anatomy for a floating, and sometimes the in-between makes it really, really tough. Okay, so the Reddit one right there is my floating navel. Yeah, that is not a floating navel.
That's
just
not
because
even a
you
navel.
have a disc on the top, on the bottom, doesn't make it floating. Now, a floating navel should be close to where the disc is in that one. There, that's a better floating navel. There's not a good solid ridge on the end, and it's kind of flat going in. And that way, when you bend over, you can see how the crease on the side. You're not going to be affecting things. So. All right, now we're messing things up here. There we go. So yeah, this is a good candidate for a floating navel. The one just to the left of it with the blue gem on the top, the Instagram. Sorry, the right. I'm sorry. Our lefts and rights are all backwards here. So
this way or this one?
The one, the far side. Keep going. There you go. That one. That one is a great candidate for a floating navel instead of a regular navel. Because when you bend over, that gem's going to get inside there. And because you have the flat disc in there, it's not going to pinch when you bend over. There's another good example.
This one's just okay.
It's just okay. It's not the most optimum one. Yeah.
That one was you.
I know it was.
Fun of you. Okay.
I know it was.
Good.
Oh, and see the gem one right there? That one right there. These are called chandelier navel jewelry. When you have a top navel, a lot of times you don't get as much jewelry options. These look so good in a top floating or in a floating navel piercing, yes, but you can't see the inside. Let's go to there. Look at my piercing. That one right there.
Yeah.
I didn't actually do that one, but that's a perfect candidate for a regular navel piercing. You know, because like putting a disc on the end, it's yeah. What else?
Oh,
okay.
We're back.
Man, that fresh double floating one is deep.
This one?
No, lower.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, that one. That one's buried. That's way too deep, I think. You can see the old scar from the regular piercing they used to have. The problem they had with that is Sorry, guys, about the sound here. Apparently, changing what we did didn't work that well.
Okay, I think we're good.
Can you go back to that one picture?
Yep.
Do you know where it was?
This one?
The deep one. Yeah, the deep one. So because I can see the scar on the lower navel down there, I'm guessing they took their other piercing out, maybe because of an operation. But I can also tell that the piercing was way too shallow on the inside. That's a normal navel piercing, but those other ones on the side are way too deep. They should be half that depth. Scroll over to the flicker one, fresh floating navel piercing with the hairy belly. You shrink and then everything changes. It goes so weird. There it is. Flicker to go to the middle.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, so honestly, that's not a good floating navel. That should have been a regular navel piercing, in my opinion. You know, because there's a good solid ridge. It's not like you get a pick. I would rather have a floating over a regular navel. It's like you got to find the one that works best for you.
Yep.
And it does look a little off-centered, too. Me being picky. Yeah, but see, a lot of these are more surface piercings when they're too high. Piercing needs to be. But floating navel, you don't have a ridge. If it has a ridge, then it's going to be a normal piercing.
Awesome.
Yep. Cool. So hopefully that kind of helps you out. And again, like a ridge is like this. This is a nice solid ridge to pierce on my hand. You can see that? But if I were to
second. There we go. We're back.
Okay. This is where there's no ridge, and this is where a floating navel, you'd want to kind of bury it deeper so it works. But this is a natural ridge. That's a normal navel. That's more of a floating navel, but you got to bury it. It's hard. I didn't explain that very well. I'm sorry. I tried.
No, I think you did a good job.
Did I do okay? Okay.
Yeah, this one might not be a bad idea to draw. Like maybe you could kind of draw what like we used to make like a C shape almost, and then put like a little divot over the thing. Or not divot, but yeah, I think you know what I'm talking about.
I'm drawing here. Okay. So this is like a normal navel if you're looking from the side view. You have that natural ridge and it goes in, and the piercing is going to look up and down. But if you have a rounded navel like this, you have to bring this one down a little tiny bit. And then the disc is on the inside. You're not going to see that anyway, so you want something flat and flush so you don't have anything protruding or rubbing against anything else. So if you have a ridge, you get a normal piercing. If it's more round or flat in that area, you have to get the floating navel. With the floating navel, there's always a much higher chance of rejection because sometimes the body says no and the skin gets less and less and less until it pushes all the way out. But when you grab a good solid ridge like this, it's hard for that to grow out because the skin's naturally there. Pull that mic closer again. So
yeah, I think that's a good explanation.
Thank you.
Let's see, from Anastasia. Another question for you, Scott. Sent a message on Instagram about a chin piercing. Curious if you've ever done one of these and what your thoughts are. Yeah, I do believe I got back to you with a few things. So feel free.
In the past, there's not a huge request for chin piercings, and I'm guessing you're talking like on the tip of your chin. You can't see with my beard, but you use like a little curved barbell in there. If I remember right, the people I pierced, they said it wasn't very painful. It's going to leave a scar. You know, that's something where it's really hard.
Hold on. Second.
Sound again?
Yeah, it just keeps going in and out. I'm not changing anything. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm sorry.
This sucks. Sorry, guys.
All right, I think we're all right.
Okay. But yeah, this is not a chin piercing is not what I'm going to offer to just anyone. So if you came in like, oh, this is my first piercing, I want to do a chin piercing. I'm like, nope. You know, it's going to leave a huge scar. You don't understand the healing process, the ramifications with that. So you got to have a couple of piercings already, and it's a rougher healing piercing. There's a lot of movement. You're going to get hit on things.
What's the likelihood of rejection?
It depends on your anatomy.
Yeah.
Some people have a really bony chin. Some people, like myself, have more than enough tissue to pierce and not worry about it, you know, being pushed out by the bone. So it depends on the shape, how you want the thing to look.
Cool.
If you have the right anatomy, it should heal.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah, there you go. So feel free to book with Scott.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get it done.
Cool.
Let's see.
Not a real common piercing. Not common at all.
Agreed. Delilah is commenting on, she said her Dahlias are 16 gauge. 1 more week of long bars. None of my piercers use clamps, but the first piercer used externally threaded bars that were oxidizing in my face. You get what you pay for.
Yes, you do.
It's true.
Oxidizing meaning it's trying to rust and you're getting some stains on there. You're going to have some like black carbony type things on there, which can actually tattoo the skin. So, yeah. People are like, oh, it's only $5. How can you go wrong? We just told you several ways you can go wrong. So get a quality piercer, and it's, yeah. And 16 gauge isn't bad. I just find that 14 can work a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And just because I said I clamp them doesn't mean other piercers can't do freehand. I find I have more control and can do it faster and more accurately with the clamp. That's why I do it. I do what's best for the customer. So
I think that's good.
Yeah. It's the way all piercers should be. And, you know, if you say, hey, like I do a freehand because it's going to be less painful and I still have just one, then cool, do what's best for the customer. That's ultimately. But just because I said I clamp, it doesn't mean they all have to.
It's true. Yep. As long as you're getting the job done well.
Yep. Absolutely.
Sarah asks, is there a piercing you would love to try, Scott, but you were almost certain it wouldn't heal or would reject? I'd like to get my brain pierced.
You know, back in the day, I saw a National Geographic magazine. No, not National Geographic, a National Enquirer. You know, the ones at the grocery store that have all the ridiculous story, like Bat Boy and whatever. And there was this one, I bought it. I wish I still had it. It says, brain piercings coming in style. And it showed this bald punk rocker with a mohawk where he had the surface bar here with this giant ring. So yeah, you can grab enough skin to make it work. It's not through the brain, but it was a head piercing. And I just remember like, oh my God, please don't let that be a thing. So
I would totally rock a head piercing.
I wish I still had that picture. It was so good.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I think it was like before all the Photoshop stuff and all that, you know, so it was
real.
I think it was a dude who really got it, and it's like, yeah, we called it the Wild West of the 90s. We were doing a bunch of really stupid stuff.
I got to see if I can find it. Hold on, I'm curious.
Yeah. Yeah, National Enquirer brain piercing probably, or yeah. Remember the guy with the mohawk? How long ago? That had to have been 20 years ago. Yeah, interesting. So, and hey, if you guys haven't already, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We really would appreciate it. Just a quick little click and you're done. Yep, won't cost you a penny. And the more you do this, the bigger the channel can grow and the more we can get for you guys. So thank you so much for being here. Can't say it enough. I love all you guys. You're all so amazing and have gave me such an amazing career. I never, ever would have dreamed that this would have turned into a career and has made incredible as it is. I can make people happy all day long, you know. What more can you ask for?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
$1 zillion. It doesn't even matter, though. It doesn't even matter. I just buy more jewelry.
Yeah, right. Same. From Tobias Waldo, trans man here. I just had top surgery, a removal of breasts and masculinization of tissue.
Yep.
That counts as a body mod, right? Question mark.
100%.
Relieved that my septum didn't close up in surgery. You helped with that.
Sweet. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I just pierced a trans guy who had top surgery this last week. Last weekend went really, really well, and yeah, so just make sure you give it enough time if you want to get your nipples re-pierced, that everything does heal up in time. Some doctors really, really push it. They're like, oh, you're good to go in like 4 to 6 months, but give it a year plus, minimum of a year. Yeah.
Yeah, better to wait too long than not long enough.
Yeah, because the thing is once you get a surgery like that, like with all the scar tissue, everything's nice and taut and like kind of tight against there, and that's what's going to cause the piercing to reject. So yeah, so just let it go to the point where it's like if you have enough loose tissue to actually grab a hold of, then we're able to do it. But you want that tissue to completely reattach, minimum of a year.
Got it.
And congratulations on keeping your septum. That's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
S says, it's Shirley again. I'm a nurse practitioner. I know an RN and a dentist that pierce. Interesting.
Yes.
I have 5 piercings on one side and 6 on the other, 3 more to go, nose pierced. Thank you for the extra positivity.
Absolutely. We were talking about laws and things earlier, and I know here in Nevada, if you are a licensed medical professional, a nurse, doctor, or dentist, you can legally do piercings without actual any training. Now, if you are one of those medical practitioners of any sort, keep in mind a lot of your training that you have for being in your profession is opposite ours. You're trying to heal wounds closed. We're trying to heal them open. So most medical products can cause problems, but a piercing needle, a hypodermic needle, they're all pretty similar. The only thing is like you're just going to have to take that hub off unless you're actually ordering the proper needles and stuff, which you should because it does make a difference.
It's true.
So I love that the medical community is like involved with this now too. Because back in the day, it's like we were constantly on the hunt for a piercing friendly doctor. This was the biggest nightmare because anytime it's like, go to the doctor if you have an infection, every old doctor's like, it's infected, take it out. You're going to get blood poisoning. This is not good for you anyways. And it's like, I don't care about your opinion. Tell me the facts. What do I need to do to get rid of this infection or what's the problem, And nowadays, as time's gone on, it's like we have so many piercing-friendly doctors and nurses that are actually doing piercings. So
there you go.
Kind of cool.
Awesome. Yeah, it is rad.
Yeah.
Silently judging you says, since you keep mentioning the name, the joke is that I don't judge silently. That's good to know. And that the Snug has been out since last summer. So yeah, if I would say that's probably most likely scar tissue.
Yep. So if you want to get it re-pierced, you can totally get it re-pierced. If you haven't used any sort of Mederma scar tissue remover, it could help a little bit, but sometimes at this point, it's probably not going to get a lot better. Maybe a little bit, but not a lot.
Funky says, my piercer is brilliant. He takes a good 30 minutes on placement and uses all sorts of tools to measure. Planning on angels tomorrow, which will take me to 24 piercings at 19.
Good. You know what? I cannot attest that your piercer is brilliant, but your piercer does care, and that's the most important factor. Mm-hmm. People don't. It's like just let's throw some dots on there, and so many people just look at us piercers and go, "I trust you. It's in the right spot." I'm like, no, I need you to look because if you're not happy, and we have different ideas what center is, like doing philtrum piercings. Philtrum piercings can be a pain in the butt to mark because your teeth, the center gap, your teeth might not be centered to your upper lip, and your nose could be slightly off-centered, or your lip, So you got the whole picture, and I tell people, if you need me to put 100 dots on you, I'll put 100 dots on you until we are happy. I'm not going until we're happy. So I'm glad you have a good piercer. It's borderline brilliant, though. They should use tools, and that's what I do too. Like I have like little toothpicks, and I use gentian violet to do the marking, and I'll use that same toothpick, and I'll put a mark later on, this far from the ear over, and some people use rulers, some people use calipers. I just kind of mark on the piece of wood so I don't have to get confused by numbers and all that. It's one size. Like nope, it's a little long, and it's easy to fix, and there's a lot of reference things, and the longer you pierce, the more you see these things. Mm-hmm. It's just because from your face forward on each nostril doesn't mean it's going to be in the right spot, because one side could be slightly longer than the other, and then your piercings look crooked. So, yeah, I'm glad you have a great piercer that cares.
Yep. Oh, Luna mentioned again, gave us $2. Thank you very much, Luna.
Thank you.
Said that I can't make an appointment. I leave at 11 a.m. I would still say send the shop page a message, and we'll see if we can make something happen for you.
Yeah. We might be able to get you in the day early. I'll work around it. See what we can do.
Yep. So just send us a message on Instagram, and we'll talk it through.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Where are we?
I do want to pierce you if I can.
Yes. Indeed. Charles Kim asks, can I get lip piercings if I frequently get chapped lips?
Yes, it kind of depends. Is it like eczema type thing, or why are your lips getting chapped? Are you working around chemicals? Is it in the factory? Something like that. That could be a factor. If it's an allergy thing, find the season where you don't get the chapped lips the most. So if winter's the best time or summer, get it pierced at that time so you don't have to apply chapstick or all the different balms, which can cause more problems. Once you're healed up, it's not as big of a deal. But if it's chapped and just constantly chafed and sore during the healing process, it's going to cause a rougher healing process, might cause more problems. Timing. It's all about the timing.
It is all about timing.
Yep.
Deandra Dahl asks, hey, Scott, hope you're having a great day. What are your thoughts on stretched lip piercings and gum erosion? Are they less likely to cause issues than metal rubbing up against the teeth and gums? So I would assume they're talking about, wearing stone or something organic.
No, the risk goes through the roof. I had a friend back in the day. I think he used to work at Body Graphics. His name was John, and he had a 1.25 inch plug in his bottom lip, which was pretty darn big. And last I talked to him, he was having his bottom teeth removed because they were all getting eroded and getting ready to fall out anyway. So you might as well just do it all professionally and get it done the right way. So if you're using these things, yeah, a lot of times the teeth come out. Look at all the different tribes that wear the big plates and stuff. They don't have teeth in that area. It doesn't work. If there's any sort of irritation, you will get gum erosion, which means it just gets less and less and less until your teeth will fall out. So that's why smaller, proper fitting jewelry works the best. Mm-hmm. So, yep.
Let's see.
I don't have huge lip plate. At one point, I had 6-gauge rings in my side lips, I think.
Cool.
But they were capped bead rings, so I don't know what the plugs would have been like. So, but yeah, I had to get rid of them because I couldn't stop playing with them.
That's me with oral piercings also.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm going to do my best with this name. Sunny Min Hyuk asks, hey, Scott, I'm a huge fan. I only have 5 piercings at the moment, 2 lobes per ear and 1 helix. And I'm looking for more. Any suggestions for deciding where else to get pierced?
My personal favorite piercings on my body are my nipples. I suggest it to just about everyone who's at least of age. It's super important right there. But yeah, nipple piercings are great. What they say, they have lobes and helix?
Yep. 2 lobes per ear and 1 helix piercing.
Nostril piercings are always cool.
Yep.
Septum piercings are great.
Conch piercing is usually
Conch piercing, yeah, is another go-to as far as like cartilage piercings. So yeah, there's a lot of things you could do. It's just what does life allow you? Can you have facial piercings? If you can't, then don't do a nostril. Maybe do a septum where you could tuck it up and hide it. Nipple piercings are great as long as your environment, if you're working in a factory and things are constantly hitting your chest, it might not be the best idea for you, but there's a couple suggestions for you.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Sarah says, I got my anti-tragus pierced after watching your video about them.
Cool. Congratulations. How bad was it? We always talk about the anti-tragus like being thick and dense, and recently the more people I pierce the anti-tragus, they're like, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So, you know what? Now that I think about it, I don't know if I've ever had my anti-tragus pierced either.
Let me do it.
Okay.
I've never done one. So, cool.
I don't have any of that earlobe stuff to get in the way either, so.
That's true. Easy peasy. Let's see. Craig L says, hi, Scott. Just want to say thanks for my 3 new piercings. Can't wait for my next ones.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here and coming into the shop. It's pretty rad.
We do appreciate it.
Yes.
Absent Mind says, okay, so I just had my ears stretched by a piercer I trust from 8-gauge to 6-gauge, and it stung a good amount. But my piercer said since there wasn't much resistance, it's fine. Is that right?
Kind of. For the most part, it generally doesn't hurt. Is this my client? Because I feel like I just did. No, I went from 6 to 4. That's what we did. Yeah, and it was the same situation where like there wasn't resistance, but I could see that she was a little bit struggling with it. And then she's like, I don't know. And then I was like, you're there. It's there, you know. And she said it did all right afterwards. And the weird thing is, too, is like the taper sometimes hurts more than the actual jewelry. There is some sort of a weird psychological thing where once you get the jewelry in there, it does feel a little bit better. But it's going to be tight and a little snug. Just don't rip. Yep.
Awesome.
And, you know, every piercer is different as far as stretching goes. I am a very slow stretcher. What I mean by that is, like, if I have a taper here and I'm stretching your ear, I'm going nice and slow, and I'm watching the front and the back. And as soon as I see the tissue start turning a little bit white, I look at the reaction. And if it starts getting tight, you see people, you know, it's like I stop right there. And we just kind of hold it at that position, and we talk for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then they'll be like, do you feel anything now? I'm like, no, everything relaxed. And then we were able to go just a little tiny bit more, and sometimes I have to stop right there, and it's like, okay, cool, let's hold this for a couple more minutes. So people are always wondering, like, why do you need a half hour to stretch your ears, you know? And it's like, because sometimes it takes a little bit. You never know when people are ready, and you can't force it. There are piercers out there that be like, okay, ready? Here we go. And they jam it. And like, if you weren't ready, you ripped, you tore, it's going to hurt so bad and sting. And then it makes it tougher for the future stretches. So go to a gentle piercer. And if you're a piercer who stretches, slow it down. You know, there's no rush here. And, if you can't get it this week, tell them to come back in 2 weeks or so.
Yep.
You know, and just, it's timing. If it's not ready, it's not ready, and don't force it to happen. And don't be the commission piercer like, well, if I don't get this jewelry in, I'm not getting money. You want customers. You know, if you keep ripping and tearing, you're not going to have repeat customers, and that hurts the business overall. So keep your customers happy and be gentle.
That's great advice.
Yes.
Lifetime client value, right?
Absolutely. I want customers for life.
Agreed. Bruh, you for real asks, hi guys, I've been wanting to get my nipples pierced for months now, but I always sleep on my stomach. Would I have to relearn how to sleep in a different position? Also worried I might roll over.
You should be fine. You can kind of sleep on nipple piercings a little easier than you can with ear piercings. Ear piercings, the jewelry's going to twist and contort. With a nipple piercing, it's flat up against your chest, so if you sleep on it, it's almost like pressing on a bruise where it's a little bit irritating, but it shouldn't be twisting and contorting. You know, so if you were pierced with rings, that's going to twist and contort, and you wouldn't want to sleep on, and that will mess things up. But it's really not that bad. You should be fine. And honestly, they're going to be pretty sensitive, and you're not going to want to sleep on them. So if you roll over and be like, you know, and pretty soon you'll get in the habit of not doing that. So you should be fine. What do you think, Nova?
Yeah, I agree. I would say you're probably going to be okay. I mean, I feel like really when it comes to nipple jewelry, the issue isn't as much like left to right for me as it is up and down. Like, and especially, this is a big one. Be careful with tank tops. Cause I
the loose gap here.
That's what happens to me sometimes is like, if it's colder out, I'll usually sleep in a tank top. And by the end of the night, like my titties are out. And I've had the bar get caught on like one of the straps of the tank top, and that sucks. But generally, I think you should be okay.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with navel piercings. You know, you're going to be sleeping on it a little bit, and people still heal those up. It's just when it gets caught and yanked and twisted and contorted is when we have the problem. And no one wants a twisted or contorted fresh nipple piercing. That sounds horrible.
Yes, indeed. Yes, it does.
I got a story about that.
Hit us.
So I went to school in Red Wing, Minnesota for like music, like electronic music technology, fixing keyboards and amps. And that's when I learned about piercing and became the body piercer. And once I dropped out, full-time body piercer. But anyways, there's this guy who was in my campus. Pretty crazy. We called him Rollerblade Ken. Okay. Rollerblade Ken used to love to get on these rollerblades in the 90s, early 90s, with no brakes on there. He was a Marine, so he was a big dude. And I don't condone this, but the dude loved huffing gasoline. Okay, so
Oh my God.
all of a sudden it's just like you're like, where'd Ken go? And you see Ken pop up and like, and he's rolling down this hill. And I remember getting out of my car and stopping Ken because his arms went out like this to stop himself, all high on gas, huffing, and like bam, right on fresh nipple piercings. And it was just, yeah. So
Rollerblade Ken.
Rollerblade Ken. Oh my God, I'll never forget that guy.
That's awesome, actually. I love that you're just like, yeah, he liked to huff gas.
He did. It's like, where'd Ken go? And it was like, dude. Yeah. College days.
Yes, good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
Don't condone that at all.
No.
Bad idea.
Yes, indeed.
Do I share too much sometimes?
No.
No. Okay, good.
Yeah, we can take the official on the Piercing with Scott podcast. We say no to huffing gasoline.
It's bad. It's really bad. Don't ever do it. And by the way, I never did that. That was all Rollerblade Ken. It's like, not everyone in our college, everyone huffed gasoline. No, it was just Rollerblade Ken.
It sounds like that was a Rollerblade Ken move. I love that all of the characters in your stories have hilarious names like Rollerblade Ken and Crazy Shane.
They earn them. They earn them. Yeah. Crazy Shane, like he's one of my best piercer friends in Minnesota, but he does like suspensions and suspension parties, and you see people like hang from hooks, and you see how people kind of gradually go up. Not Shane. He gets the hooks in his back, climbs up a ladder about 3 steps, and jumps off.
Brutal.
Crazy. He earns it.
Yeah, to get the name Crazy Shane among piercers, I feel like you have to be real crazy.
He was the best. He is the best piercer. He's done so many of my stuff for me. Yeah, we learned a lot together. A lot together.
All right, from Micro Floof Seal. Hi, all. Glad to be able to catch a live. Question, is there a way to order jewelry from your shop, or is that only possible in person? The shops near me don't do threadless jewelry, and I need new ends for my barbells. And I know I can trust the metal you use, but I live out of state.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we were just talking about this today. It's something that we would love to do, but not something that is probably going to happen soon. I would ask where you are. We have friends in most major cities or close by. So if you hit us with a city or a zip code, you can also feel free to DM the shop page on Instagram at piercing.vegas if you don't want to put it out in public. I would be happy to steer you to somebody that we trust. It
is a possibility, and for some of my old-time fans here, we did talk about doing a website and selling jewelry, but that kind of all fell through when Jared and I kind of went our separate ways that way. But now I'm looking at getting a bigger shop, and if I have a bigger shop, I'm going to have more staff, and I might be able to work something out here. So it is a possibility in the future, but it's going to be probably at least a year. At least a year before I even consider that.
Yep.
6 months to move, and then I would have to get everything all figured out and how to make that work. But
so
I'd love to be able to get you some jewelry because I know we need it, and we hear the struggle all the time, and it's really, really frustrating. So, yeah, we need you guys to have good jewelry.
Yes, indeedy. So we've got a couple questions from Soup Kitchen Richard.
Sure.
Hey, sorry if this is a repeated question, but how can I get into the industry and find work as a piercer? I love the art, but I've had enough bad piercings that I want to be the quality I never got. Also, sorry if I ask too much. Never say sorry. Feel free to ask as much as you want. That's why we're here. We love helping you guys. We love answering questions. Yep. And the last part, my septum was pierced crooked, but they told me that I could train the piercing to be straight, but it never worked. Doesn't stay permanently closed anymore. Current piercer says it can't re-pierce because of that. Any advice? So let's start with the first question, which is how can I get into the industry and find work as a piercer?
So you need to get an apprenticeship. Sounds like you're surrounded by piercers who don't really know what they're doing or way outdated, which kind of sucks because you need someone to teach you. And a good proper apprenticeship is going to be 6 months a year to about 2 years. Like that's what I find is the best amount of time for this. Here in Nevada, they say that we have to have a minimum of 6 months for apprenticeship, and that's just too little. So yeah, you got to find an apprenticeship. Then you need to get licensed through the city, depending on the city or state, however it is. And then in the meantime, if you want to become that good piercer, learn all the piercing names properly. Learn your anatomy, the proper anatomy terms of the ear, the helix, the snug, the anti-helix, the crux of the ear. All these things are different real terms, and you need to know that. So yeah, anatomy, physiology, that kind of stuff. And then there's also seminars you could take, like the Fakir Intensives course. You could also subscribe to Ryan Ouellette's Piercing Wizard podcast, which is fantastic. And you can learn a lot there. Now, the worst thing you can do is take that information and say, oh, I'm a piercer now, and start doing it on your own, because you're going to develop some really bad habits, and you can give people diseases, and you can cause a lot of massive scarring. And if you do things wrong enough, you could end up in court and get your butt sued off. So you got to be very, very careful and do things the right way. People will respect you way more if that's the case. Now, the more knowledge you have, like the Fakir Intensives, the Ryan Ouellette's Piercing Wizard podcast, watch all my videos on the whole truth and all these things, and you're going to have a little bit of a base knowledge. And that's a good thing to go in, but don't go in with kind of a cocky attitude saying, I know more than you because I did all this stuff. Because every environment, city, laws, everything's going to be changes from place to place. Same thing with Aftercare. Like, our Aftercare sometimes is slightly different here than it is in Minnesota, where I'm originally from, because Minnesota had a very humid climate. We had a lot of problem with moisture bumps, and things weren't being dried off well enough. When I live in the desert now, we don't have as much of those issues. You know, things change. So I also noticed that people don't seem to swell as much out here in the desert as in back home in Minnesota. So things are a little different as far as sizes and things like that. But try to get a well-rounded base knowledge and get a good apprenticeship. That's the best thing I can possibly suggest. Now, the second part was...
can I chime in real quick? So I always say this when people talk about wanting to get involved in the piercing industry. So you kind of touched on this, Scott, but I really think that the most important part is to find a piercer that you know and love, develop some kind of relationship with them, go and get pierced by them, ask questions. Yeah, not like that.
No, it's never a good idea. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I hear this over and over.
Absolutely.
People sleeping with their apprentices, and it's like, don't.
Creepy.
Keep it separate.
Yeah, don't do that.
Separate.
When I say relationship, I mean like a professional relationship. Develop a relationship with a piercer that you trust. Let them know that you are interested in becoming an apprentice. Ask questions. Try and get some guidance from them. I would also recommend there are a couple of books that you can check out. Modern Primitives is a classic one. Elaine Angel's Piercing Bible is great.
Running the Gauntlet.
I was just going to say Running the Gauntlet, I think, is those are like the if I were giving anybody 3 books to start in the piercing industry,
that's it.
It would be those 3, I think. So.
Mm-hmm. And there are other books where you can learn about people, and you can learn about history, and you can learn, but for the most part, those are the core ones where you're going to get some really good, solid information.
Absolutely.
Again, don't pierce at home. Don't get bad habits.
Agreed. Let's see.
And then also, if you find a good shop, see if they're hiring. See if you're looking for front counter help. You can learn a lot just working the front counter, understanding jewelry sizes, how the system works. And, if you build up the trust with that other piercer and they're ready to bring someone on, it's like you're a good candidate.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea too. Mm-hmm. Getting in the front door, literally, can be a huge step in the right direction.
Yep. What was the second part of the question?
So the second question was, my septum was pierced crooked, and they told me that I could train the piercing to be straight.
That's old school.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I've told that to people before too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't close permanently anymore. And the current piercer says that it can't be re-pierced.
It can be. It can be. If you leave jewelry out of it, okay, it's going to shrink up quite a bit. The hole still might be slightly there, but get it re-pierced at a larger size. Get it pierced at a 12 gauge. It's going to probably shrink up to maybe an 18 gauge where an 18's tight, but it's still there. But pierce the 12, and then you're going to kind of retrain or rebore that hole to that proper size. There's also the possibility where it might have been pierced too low or too high or too much back and needs to be more forward. So there's other places. I've done double septum piercings on people before. One in front, one in back. I've done one lower, one higher. This is not an easy thing to do. And if you're a new piercer, don't even attempt this because they're going to be crooked. It's really, really hard to get that right. I just got really lucky in the past. But my point is there's room. You can make it happen. But if you're wearing jewelry all the time, it definitely won't close up. Leave jewelry out. Massage it on a regular basis, and just get pierced at a 12 gauge. A 16 to a 12 gauge may look kind of big, but your body's not going to feel it if you're in the proper spot.
It's true.
Yep.
It's true. All right. Oh, Tina was talking about her conch piercing. She said she had to be pierced with a 1/2-inch bar. I swell a lot.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's tough. 1/2 inch is big.
1/2 inch is really big for, I mean, that's still shorter than the 5/8 that I was starting people off with. But I'm guessing you probably had to upsize, because most piercers don't pierce at the 1/2 inch right away. Maybe they did.
Could be.
Maybe.
That'd be pretty big for an initial, I think.
Yeah.
But let's see. Craig L asks, what are your thoughts on lobe piercing and stretching versus going to a gauge? I think they mean going to like stretching it first with a punch. I really want to do both of my ears in the fall and gauge them small. So it sounds like they want small stretched ears, and they're trying to see if they should do a large gauge lobe piercing or stretch it, I think, because punches actually are not legal in the United States.
You don't ever want to punch your earlobes anyways. I don't know why people will punch an earlobe because like, if you want to stretch your ears, why are you removing the tissue to stretch?
It's a good question.
You know,
You
it's
need
like,
that tissue.
you know, because like after you stretch so far, your ears start getting thin. You can't go that big. But if you're removing all that tissue, there's not anything left to really stretch. So punches are terrible for an earlobe piercing. I've always hated that. Punches are for like helix piercings, like up top up here, because you can't really stretch the cartilage the same way. It can be done. It's not easy. So therefore, a lot of people punch larger cartilage piercings like that if you're going to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm always a fan of pierce small, stretch up to the right size.
I agree.
It just gives you more options. You appreciate the journey. You appreciate your piercing a lot more. Yeah.
Especially if you're going small, because if you do pierce them at a larger size, say your goal size is, you said small, so I don't know, 8. Say you pierce them at an 8, you're going to be, that jewelry is going to be falling out of your ears soon, and you're going to have to go bigger.
Forced to stretch.
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend just getting pierced at, a 16 gauge or 18 gauge or whatever.
Even a 14.
Even a 14,
yeah.
And then slowly going up from there.
Yeah. I'm like, it seems like it would be a really cool thing to do, going to a really large size right away. And a lot of people do this. It's like, I'm saving money. Like, you're saving a little bit, but you're also creating something that's more permanent. And if you take it out, you're going to have a much larger scar that won't go away like it would for a small piercing. Now, a lot of people talk about the point of no return. In a way, it's like 0, 0. If you pierce at a normal size and you gradually stretch, if you go up to a 0, it should close up to a normal size for the most part. Past that size, like pinky size or bigger, it's probably going to be somewhat of a hole and it won't completely close up. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Not everyone's the same, but the thing is just take your time. It's the way to do it. I don't know why I'm so opposed to the large gauge stuff, but it feels like you're trying to cheat the system when there's a better way to go about it.
Agreed.
And just patience.
I think it's the concept of, I think maybe what you hate is the impatience that comes along with a lot of the people that want large gauge piercings and want it now, as opposed to doing it the right way, taking it slow and low, and doing it as intended, so to speak. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, and you're cheating yourself out of a lot of joy. Think about that. Every time you hit your goal, the looks of people's faces in the mirror, it's like, next size is bigger, it's bigger.
Yep.
You skip that 10 times, that happy feeling 10 or 12 times, just, and it's like finding all the different styles of jewelry and stuff on the way up there. It's not crazy expensive. Yeah, you could spend a ton of money on it, but you don't have to. Like glass plugs, $20, $30 for maybe a set. It's not that much money every 2 months.
Agreed.
It really isn't. That's one meal at McDonald's.
It's true.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So.
Let's see. Tina asks, in some states in the U.S., do piercings have to be done only by a physician? I'm not aware of any states where that is the case.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
There's been there's been rumors of like VCHs, which are vertical clitoral hoods, have been banned or they're illegal and only medical professionals are going to do it. But the thing is there really isn't too many doctors or nurses who will do those piercings. So that's why we have our body piercers, because if the medical professionals could do it, they're going to do that, and it's going to collect all their insurance on that money. And I don't know. Yeah, that's why there's a lot of body modification artists, and that's their argument too. Is like, you want a tongue bifurcation or a tongue splitting, but then all the people in Washington and whatnot are like, well, this should be done for only surgeons and plastic surgeons and oral surgeons. Well, find me one oral surgeon who's going to split my tongue for me. It doesn't exist. That's why the body mod industry is out there. But I have not heard that about body piercing. It wouldn't surprise me that much, but I don't think it's true. I hear Nova typing over there. So
yes. Yeah, I was just saying, generally speaking, I want to kind of not have people give advice to each other in the comments necessarily about specific piercing related questions, because sometimes they're not quite correct, and we're happy to hang out and answer the questions. Just give us some time.
Were you looking up the laws too or not?
No, I was not.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't think that's true, but yeah, okay. That's what I thought you were doing. That's why I brought that up.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's see, from Sarah. Scott, how do you deal with a person who's nervous before piercing and keeps moving as you go to pierce them? What's your limit before you say, I'm not going to pierce you?
Knock them out and get them while they're out. Just kidding. I'm never going to Scott to get pierced. There's a skill as a piercer to calm people down, and it's not easy to do, and I don't think everyone develops this, but you just got to find something that the person can to get you to trust them. Like the whole stubbing of the toe, everyone has a different pain level. If it hurt that bad, people wouldn't be getting pierced. And I've also told people, like, I got pierced by one of the masters. His name's Fakir Mushafar. He did a genital piercing on me, and the day he was supposed to do it, I went up to him. I said, I'm scared. It doesn't feel right. I don't know if I can do this. And he just looked at me and said, well, we won't do it today. It's not the end of the world. If tomorrow's a better day for you, we will do it tomorrow. I said, just if it doesn't feel right today, maybe it's just not the right day. Maybe the spirits aren't in your favor, or whatever he might have said. I don't remember exactly. But he was 100% right, because the next day I got it done, and it was one of the most magical piercing experiences I've ever had, because I waited till the time was right. So if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. You are going to be scared. That's totally normal, but it's just like, why isn't it the right day? Is it like, are you too hungry? Are you hungover? Did you not get enough sleep? Are you stressed out because of work? Is this, why isn't it the right day? But you got to talk to the people and just get them calm and realize it's going to be okay. And then the other thing too is, like, sometimes I bring in humor to a certain degree, which can kind of be scary. But like, I'll look at someone and say, look, I have a completely perfect record. Not a single person has ever died on me in 30 years. And it's like, once you can laugh and relax a little bit, sometimes that's enough to people like, yeah, you're right, this is being ridiculous. And then they can calm down. But that's my path. And I'd say the same thing about people who get lightheaded or getting ready to pass out. Like, you can almost talk people out of it. Like, if you're getting ready to do a piercing and like, oh, I'm lightheaded, I'm going to pass out. Well, don't say, okay, yeah, lay down, do this, just like, oh, cool. We'll just lay down here. We're going to relax a little bit. Just bend your knees. The crazy part is this is the rush that people get addicted to. It's hard to believe people get addicted to this. Some people hits a little more than other. And like, there you go. Now you got color back to your face. And sometimes, like, you can tell when people's going to pass out because they get the white color, but you got all this color to your face. You're feeling better, aren't you? And a lot of times, like, yeah, it's all a head game. So you just got to get people to calm down. It's fine line with the jokes. You got to be careful there. And you also got to be careful not to let other people in the room control the situation. It's your room. You control it. When I'm piercing kids are always scared. It's really hard for me to say sometimes. Sometimes you got to look at the parents, go, I got this. Just be quiet. Let me do my thing. Yep. Because like sometimes too much coddling from parents and everyone's saying it's overload on a kid or whoever's getting pierced. So control the situation. That's the best. Controlling the situation. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for
Great question. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, pretty much everybody that gets pierced gets nervous before piercing, myself included.
Mm-hmm. So. Even I do. I've been pierced hundreds of times and I still get butterflies.
Yep.
They're little ones, but I still get them.
Excuse me. I have the hiccups now too.
How are we doing for time? I've completely lost track of this.
We are at 2 hours. In about 2 minutes, I figured we'd go a little past there since we've got a few more questions. If you're up for it,
I totally am. Sweet. God, time flies so fast. I was like,
yes, it
have
does.
we hit an hour yet?
Yeah, we're about to hit 2. Emily Rasta said, "Hey Scott, Nova, thanks for the live streams. Love them. Wondering if Monroe piercings are safe or if the risk to gums is quite high."
Your eye tooth, that's kind of like the canine sharp one there. Sometimes in the gums, it protrudes a little bit. So when I mark for the piercing, I make sure it's not on that spot. Now, the thing is once you downsize to a shorter post, the disc gets nested a little bit into the lip and pulls it away. So you're generally not going to be a problem unless it's right over that eye tooth and that gum. If it's pressing right up against it, that's going to be irritation. Other than that, I really haven't seen too many other problems. I will say for a Monroe piercing, because they're not as popular as they used to be, don't go in the crease of the smile line or outside of it. It needs to be in. A lot of people think they put it right in the crease, but there's too much movement. It causes way too much scarring and generally causes more problems. So stay out of the smile line and be careful of the eye tooth a little bit. Sometimes just moving it over like 2 dots or 3 dots is more than enough to get it out of the way.
Yep, placement is really important, especially with oral piercings. There's somebody on the Instagram that was asking about what are we calling them? The upper paired off-center vertical or inverse vertical labret piercings. Some people are calling them vampire bites. And somebody was asking about tooth and gum damage on those, and especially on those. Placement is extremely, extremely important.
Yes. For those, let's talk about those vampire bites. Can you pull up the picture by any chance? Okay. So the thing is it depends on how big your upper lip is. If you have a really thin lip, the piercing is going to be more vertical, more up and down, like a vertical, like a gesturum or a vertical labret. But the thing is, if you have more of a pouty and you can kind of angle it out a little tiny bit, then you're able to put a disc on the back. So if it's more vertical, you kind of have to stick with the more of a bead. I'm not sure if an M&M would work better in a situation like that or not. But anyways, it really depends on anatomy and the actual placement. Vampire bite. These are not the same. Oh, yes, the first one. The one you're pointing to, because it goes to the inside of the mouth. Okay, those are 2 vertical piercings. You look at the one unusual lip piercing right to the there you go. It's basically that, but instead of the bead coming on the outside of your lip, it goes onto the inside of your lip. Yep. So that's kind of the situation. There's probably a pretty high rejection rate on these ones because we're going through a lot of really, really soft tissue and it's easily irritated. So the right size jewelry, you have to start with long ones, definitely downsize, and find the stuff that works best for you. If you're ever wearing oral piercings and it's really hurting your gums, get it out. If you haven't downsized already, downsize first. And if you downsize and it still hurts and irritates your gums, I don't care how good it looks. Get it out. It's going to do a lot of damage.
Agreed. For sure. From Rudy Morales, can I re-pierce my nostril? My original piercing accidentally came out when I went when I went to get it re-pierced. The piercer gave me a piercing in a different spot, and it led to a piercing bump.
Yes, you can totally pierce over scar tissue. It's not a big deal at all. I've pierced sometimes like 3, 4, 5 times over the same spot. It's not that big of a deal. Again, make sure that the tissue looks as good as possible so the redness, the bump's gone away before you do it, because otherwise you're going to kind of anchor that into place and you'll never get that redness or that bump to go away.
Yes.
But yeah, totally safe. I don't understand why. It's the problem with a lot of piercers and tattoo artists and body mod artists who don't do their homework. I don't know, so I'm just going to put it in different. Why are you creating more scars on people when it doesn't have to, when you can do just a little tiny bit of research and figure out that it is safe? There's nothing dangerous about it.
Yep.
Do your research, piercers.
Amen.
And tattoo artists.
Let's see. Silently judging you, asking, having come to the realization that I'm very tiny, I'm curious what bar length most people take in their upper ear. I take 5 millimeters. Upper ear, I would guess, meaning Helix. And
yep.
I don't.
That's a 1/4 inch.
Is it 1/4 inch?
Yep. I believe it is. It took me a long term to get used to the fact that I'm tiny too.
That's smaller than 1/4 inch. It's like smaller than 7/32, actually. It's like in between 3/16 and 7/32.
Wow.
730 seconds is a 5.5
Yes.
milliliter.
I have had people come in. I have one client who has forward helixes, and I can't order a shorter enough bar for her. Like, yeah, I think we had 730 seconds in there, and the bar was still sticking. So there are companies that make it shorter, but the thing is a lot of the threadless jewelry, the pins are actually longer than the length of the post. So you'd almost have to cut it and adjust it to make it sure it fits in there. So, but yeah, it does happen. It does happen. You're not alone.
It's true.
Yep. Us tiny people need to stick together.
Yeah, right.
I'm not tiny, by the way. I'm like 6'2", almost 300 pounds.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Delilah Ray asks, or says, totally agree with people that are scared of size. I have 1-inch stretched ears and have only just found a shop that carries larger sizes. Shop's 45 minutes away, but I want to go bigger. So worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is when you go to larger sizes like that, the wood grains, the glass, the stone, everything has way more detail, and it's almost like you want to hand pick out that jewelry. So it's nice to be able to see it. When you're dealing with like an 8-gauge plug and it's stone or glass, it's like, it's pretty consistent. It's going to be that color or that stone, but that big, it's just the character. It's so much more, and it's fun to hand pick it out. My shop has a lot of plugs. I have stuff all the way up to 3 inches. We don't have a ton in the 3-inch range, but we have something in almost every single size. So if you need plugs, I should have your size. The variety starts getting a little thinner after like 1 3/8 or 1.5 inches, somewhere around there. So
I would say an inch.
You think an inch? Yeah. I have quite a few at inch. I probably have maybe 10 plugs.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I consider that compared to some of the stuff that, like, the amount that we have in smaller sizes, I consider that to be less.
Okay. Yes. You're right.
We've got like 60 sizes or 60 different varieties and
all the other small sizes, smaller sizes.
Bro, you for real asks, I got my tongue pierced at a 12 gauge and went to a different place for a shorter bar, and they were shocked that it was a 12. Yep. Now I have a 14 gauge because that's all they had. I wonder if the hole shrunk. Yes, probably.
A little bit, but the thing is it's loose enough tissue where you could go right back to the 12 without hardly any issues whatsoever. And that's the thing is, like, these are piercers who generally don't continue their education. Mm-hmm. I don't know why you'd be shocked at that. People stretch your tongues. Like, back in the day, I had a guy come in who had 2 tongue piercings, that had 2 double zeros, and was looking for some jewelry that could make him speak better. And I was just like...
You have 2 double zero size
There's
holes
nothing
in your
you
tongue,
can
bro.
do, dude.
Yeah.
Like, take one of them out, maybe? Yeah.
No.
I couldn't even understand what he was saying. He's like, and like he wanted like a U shape, like us to bend a double zero barbell so it only had 2 small beads on the top with a U on the bottom to minimize space. I'm like, dude, no one can bend a double zero like that.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Interesting choices.
Mm-hmm.
Irene Vital asks, recommendation for piercing sprays. Thoughts on tea tree oil? ? Got my tragus pierced back in December, and I recently got a bump. Any advice?
I hate tea tree oil. It's an essential oil. It's never been designed to go inside your body. There are a lot of piercers out there who say, yeah, it works great, but they're always looking for the cure-all.
Yep. As Kelsey likes to say, it does strip paint off of cars.
It does, yes. You want to put that inside your body, so... So the 3 I generally suggest are going to be Steri-Wash. It's just pure sterile saline, has a nice dispenser top, and comes out sterile and clean. Neilmed, my personal favorite. I've just used these guys for years, and I've had really, really great luck. Comes out in a nice gentle mist. And also H2 Ocean. It's probably my 3rd favorite because it has a bunch of lysine. I can't pronounce that.
Yep.
There's
it has some
other stuff in here that's supposed to help, but it's 32 other problems you could possibly have. So I like just pure sterile saline as opposed to the extra stuff. But this stuff isn't bad. It's just not as good, in my opinion, as these. Now, if you go to a pharmacy like Walgreens, CVS, or any drugstore, you're going to find wound wash, but make sure it says fine mist on there, because you know, like when you have a squirt bottle, you can have the full stream or you can adjust it so it comes out in a mist. You want the mist so it's nice and gentle on your piercing, because you need to spray directly on there. And if it's coming out at 300 feet per second and like a fire hose, you're going to irritate your piercing. Okay, you don't want to spray on a Q-tip or anything like that. You spray directly on there, let it sit, and then wipe off crusty gauze or a paper towel. So those are my favorites. Neomeds 1, Steriwash number 2, and H2 Ocean is number 3. There's a bunch of other brands out there too, but just make sure there's not chemicals or other additives inside there.
Yep, sterile saline is what you want. But yeah, as far as the bump goes, so chances are that's something called an irritation bump. And once you remove the source of that irritation, it should be A-okay. So I don't know if maybe it got caught on something. Traguses, I feel like maybe less so than nostrils, but I feel like are pretty notorious for bumps.
Earphones, earbuds, stethoscopes that go in your ear, even though they don't hurt at the time, they will cause that bump. So you do need to refrain for those until it's all the way healed up.
Yep, and another thing that I always like to mention with irritation bumps is they can take forever to get rid of. Be patient. Don't try to pop them. Just
it's not a pimple.
Yep, take it slow.
Yep.
Jessica, I feel like I can answer this one. What would you recommend regarding piercings and contact sports? I want to get into something, but I'm absolutely terrified of getting hit when I'm still scared to walk around without a bra. So I guess you're talking about nipple piercings specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say to wait until they're healed before going back into doing contact sports. If I know, like I'm trying to heal a navel piercing while like getting punched in the stomach a couple times a week, and it's not great.
yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing to keep in mind for nipple piercings, I don't wear a bra, so I'm not 100% sure on this one here.
Same.
But I had this lady come in the other day. We re-pierced her nipples, and she was wearing like this tank top-ish type thing, but she had this silicone pad which kind of covered it so her nipple wouldn't show through her shirt, you know, but it was thick enough and it stuck and it clung to the area. I was able to put a piece of gauze on the inside so the jewelry wouldn't stick to it, but she's there helping her dad out. She was like, I didn't want my dad knowing I got my nipples pierced. I'm like, understandable. So she put this on there, and it looked like a serious, I'm like, it was about that thick. So, I mean, it's going to protect the tissue.
Yep.
I just don't know how secure that would be. And depending on your contact sport, I mean, it's like putting a good protective barrier over the top of it. And that could be a really, really good solution for you.
It could help for sure. Especially, I would say maybe, if possible, combining that with like a sports bra. So it reduces
so it kind of holds it in
movement.
place.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. But it does depend on the contact sport you're talking about, because there are always risks.
Yeah, like if it's football or something, you have other
or rugby.
Close, but then if it's like jujitsu or something, you don't want to have your fake boob laying on the mat next to you, like, oh, your boob fell out. Yeah.
Right. Good times.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so Amanda Tucker says, hello. Do you have tips getting silicone 2-gauge in and out of stretched ears? I'm at a 2-gauge, but I struggle to get them out without causing issues. And I also notice she followed up a little bit. Yeah, how to remove silicone tunnels from stretched ears.
Okay, first of all, find tunnels that work for you. Not all silicone is the same, because there are some generic ones that the silicone's really hard, and it might as well just be like a wood plug with flares on the end.
Yep.
Chaos is my favorite one. KAOS is the brand name. They do like the flesh ones, which are really skinny and they'll be easy to get in and out, but sometimes they don't hold the full form of the ear too. So find the ones that are soft enough, and you can do that. Don't do it dry. I have 7/16 plugs in my nostrils, and I struggle. Sometimes they go in easy, sometimes they don't. I find it works best in or directly out of the shower. Yeah, those are all good silicone plugs. So that's kind of the factor. And if you just stretched your ears, maybe they're not meant to be taken in and out so much. And, if you're fully healed up, you should be able to go back and forth. But just, make sure they're lubed up. And right after a shower, the hot water softens things out, and they tend to go a little bit easier. So.
Got it. Let's see. Dahlia mentioned, just wanted to add that I put a bar across my nostrils instead of a chain because they're slightly off. I don't know if it's the angle or placement, but the bar sits more even than the chain does.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good for you. It's like you work with what you have, Sometimes like we can only stretch our ears so much. Sometimes if it's one piercing's height, it's not worth re-piercing. Adjust the jewelry to make it work, It's absolutely what you need to do. Sometimes like people wear glasses and one ear's higher than the other, and you have to bend the bar so everything looks straight, and we're not fully symmetrical. So good for you for figuring it out.
Heck yes.
Not a lot of people can do that. So that's good. Yeah.
Zalema is asking, my bindi dermal, meaning like forehead surface anchor, had it 6+ months, has a bluish bump underneath, not around it entirely for 2 weeks. Been leaving it alone besides keeping it clean, doing sterile saline soaks once a day. Will it likely go away anytime soon, potentially, and is that sufficient care for it?
Less is more in a situation like this because it's something irritated. If it's a bluish kind of bump,
that's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. It could have been bruised. You might have bumped it and hit it, and there's a bruise underneath, and it's going to take a while.
It says it's been there for 2 weeks. The bluish bump.
Oh.
To me,
Make
that
sure
sounds,
it's not surfacing.
Yeah, to me that sounds like it might be starting to come out. It's you had it for about 6+ months. I feel like the 6 to 8 months when surface anchors are like wanting to come out, I feel like that's when, or at least often, they come out around that time.
I'm going to suggest using your camera phone, and you're going to want to probably like put it underneath like this so you can take a picture up to see how far it's sticking out, or have someone else take that picture for you. Take one picture today and another one a week from now and another one a week from now from that. And if it seems like it's coming out further, the piercing's rejecting, and your best bet is to take it out. Sometimes they're anchored in there and they stay for a long time. Sometimes the body just says no and pushes it out. If it comes all the way out, it'll leave a big scar.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Let's see. Dahlia asks, is it possible to get a floating navel after a complete rejection, I assume, of a regular navel piercing? My mom wouldn't let me remove it in time, and all attempts of floating navels have also started to reject. To me, it sounds like you might just not have the anatomy for a navel piercing.
If it completely rejected and you have a big line of scar tissue, that scar tissue is not near as strong as your original skin, so the chance of rejecting out is even much, much higher. I have seen it before where people have navel scars higher up on their belly button, but if it's more rounded, you might be able to pierce it lower with that floating navel being on the inside where you're still getting more of the fresh tissue. So you need to go to a good piercer, get a really good assessment. Is this something that can heal? Is it all through scar tissue, or is there some real tissue left in there where it won't? It's tough. It's tough. But yeah, scar tissue doesn't. If it rejects out once, they're more prone the second time, and even more prone the third time.
Got it.
Yep.
That's funny. The next question is actually, I'll be getting an anatomy consult in person after swimming season, but would I be a candidate for a floating navel when my navel piercing rejected? There's almost no scar tissue, so same answer.
It's more about the shape of your belly button, So yeah, we'd have to see it to actually answer that properly.
Awesome. Ann Boggs says, hi, I'm in Tennessee. Always enjoy your videos. Thanks for hanging out with us, Ann.
Yeah, thanks, Ann. Appreciate you being here.
Let's see. Jennifer Platt said, once again, I caught a live. Thank you both for the entertainment and endless learning. This is my absolute favorite channel. Aw.
Thank you so much. We're so happy. It's such an honor to be able to have such wonderful people who follow us, and just good, positive community. You guys are the best.
It's true. We love doing these, and we love talking to you guys.
Yep.
Let's see. Sarah Wardle says, I can ask for you to tour Europe, Scott, and come to England to stab me.
That would be fun. I would love to do a guest spot out there and go travel Europe for a little bit. Maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe someday.
No promises.
Craig L says, oh my God, RNs could pierce? ? Maybe it's time to do an apprenticeship with a sly, silly looking face.
Yes.
Emoji.
Yes. You know what, Craig? Every time I hear Craig L, it reminds me of my old boss, because that was his, first name and last initial. So I'm like, Craig? But the questions you ask don't line up, so therefore I know it's not who I think.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do an apprenticeship.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But yes, Craig, I would say I'm not sure in the U.S. if there are certain places that allow nurses or doctors by default to be able to pierce. I think maybe, do they here?
They do here. That is, in Nevada, it is legal for doctors and nurses and dentists to do piercings.
But I will say that if you are truly interested in becoming a good piercer, I would suggest getting an apprenticeship outside of the medical industry as well. And if you are in the medical industry, just maybe using the tools that you have learned within the medical industry and applying it outside.
Your apprenticeship's definitely going to go faster because you understand sterility, aseptic technique, a lot of those different things, and it can really work in your favor. So, Yep.
Let's see. Amanda asks, are piercings more open in the medical field yet? I would say yes. We have a lot of nurses clients.
They always have. And it's the most messed up thing in our industry. If you're in school to become a nurse, it's the most restricted place where you can't have your piercings and you got to take them out because it's professional. But one of our number one clients for almost 30 years has been nurses.
Yep.
You know, it's like you can't have it for school, but you can have it in real life. But you can't have it in school because you got to be professional for real life. But as soon as you graduate, you can have them. It doesn't make any sense.
It is silly.
Yep.
Oh, excuse me, hiccups again. Anne says, I really wish I could see your illustrations and stuff that you do, but I'm totally blind. But I don't care. I get so much out of your videos all the time. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hope, you know, I'll try to be more descriptive when I'm doing my drawings. I feel like I try to be, but I'll definitely work better for you. Okay. Yeah.
Agree.
Thank you so much for letting me know. I'll definitely be more descriptive, but yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. Thank
you.
Coming to hang out. Let's see. Delilah Ray saying second checking placements or moving placements a dozen times if you're getting oral piercings. Smile and make faces in the mirror before committing. I think she was responding to how we talked about how important it is for piercers to double check their marks.
Exactly. You know, like even like Medusa piercings, I always go to that. Like I'll tell people like, okay, you mark them and like, here, open your mouth, close it, open it, close it, because you don't necessarily close it the same way each time. So I always have people do that 3 or 4 times, and I find that sometimes I end up moving the dot because of it. Yeah, placement's so important. Play with dots, make sure it's right.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for that.
Charles asks, what is the safest and easiest oral piercing? I would imagine probably in relation to tooth and gum.
Yes, safest tooth and gum is going to be a vertical lip piercing, not like the vampire bites, but more like a gestrum or a vertical libret on the outside of your lip. Because if you were to drop or a bead came undone, it's not going to go in your mouth, and there's less of a chance of you biting down on it. Now, also on the contrary, if you have a vertical, I would say gestrum's probably even better because there's less of a chance to bite down and play with it with your teeth. Yeah, see, like look at the red, the one where the person has the off-centered teeth there with that one there. I would have played so many times. I think that's Lynn's piercing. She nailed it. That looks centered, but you see how the teeth are off-centered to that and how the mouth is not perfectly shaped? That just proves her point. It's like trying to find center isn't perfectly straight either. Like the one nostril slightly bigger, so you have to really play around with it. But these ones are the safest ones because if the bead comes undone, it's going to fall outside of the mouth, not go into it, and there's less of a chance of damage to your teeth or your gums. What was the other part of the question? The safest and the easiest?
Yep.
The easiest I'm going to say is probably the tongue web. A little frenum on the underside of your tongue. It's virtually painless. It's not too problematic unless the bead comes unthreaded. That's where I'd say the vertical lip is the safest because it's not going to go inside your mouth. But as far as the easiest, the tongue frenum is probably the easiest.
Awesome.
Yep.
Let's see. What is next? From Nick. I got my nipples pierced recently, and I work in a freezer. It's a very interesting feeling, to say at the least. I bet.
I used to pierce in Minnesota, and it was always so entertaining because, like, we pierced in the middle of February, and it's way below zero. And inside the shop, we kept it, normal temperature, 70-ish, somewhere around there. But then people walk outside, and you see the shoulders go forward, and the whole body hunches up, and you can tell, like, ow! Yep. So, timing situation.
That is funny. Speaking of nipples, Delilah mentioned that there's some of her favorites. She got vertical instead of horizontal. Very cool. I want to find D-rings to look like hoops, but they're hard to find in a 9/16 length.
$25 plus a ring, so
yep.
Yeah, it's about $50. So
yes, indeedy.
All right, couple more questions here, and we'll finish this up.
Sounds good. I'll see if we can get through them quick. Let's see. Sarah says, comparing it to my forward helix and doth, the anti-tragus was spicy, but not too bad.
Good.
Cool. Let me get it through. Kid mentioned, I want you to do my dimple piercing so bad. I'm in Vegas and live here. Do you do those?
I don't do dimple piercings. Either you're talking your cheeks or lower back. Lower back are dermal anchors, and those are illegal in Las Vegas. Cheek piercings I won't do, but I will do Dahlia piercings. If you want your cheeks, let Kelsey do those. She's good at them.
Yep, so feel free to book an appointment anytime on www.piercing.vegas, and we'll get you taken care of. Let's see. How long do nipples? I'm sorry. S asks, how long do nipples take to heal? Do you recommend one at a time?
No, get them both done at the same time. They're going to take 6 months, or probably like 4 to 6 months on average for those to be healed up. You're going to have crusties for up to 2 years. I don't know if you want them both done, get them both done at the same time. It's not that big of a deal to heal. It's just you're dealing with crusties for a while.
Awesome. And while we're on the nipple topic, Cass asks, are nipple piercings anatomically dependent? I've heard some people say that they are and others that they aren't, and I'm used.
They are. If you have inverted nipples where the nipple goes inside the body, if it can actually come out, we can pierce it, but there's a higher chance for rejection. So that would kind of be the anatomy dependency there. Most people can get their nipples pierced. I have had a couple people I've turned away. Like one guy was a bodybuilder, and like his chest was so tight, I couldn't separate the skin from his he was so determined. He's like, can you get like a tweezers and just like pull up on the nipple itself and go like, I couldn't even do that. I would have had to like full on scoop it inside his chest, but there was so much muscle tissue that so that was bizarre. That's I've one of the few times.
I've also seen people with just like not enough tissue in the nipple to be able to pierce it, just like too flat up against the areola.
Yeah, but you can still pierce the areola and get it to heal, which is going to cause the tissue to come out and give you a little bit more of what a nipple. You know, may not be exactly a nipple, but it's going to push out the center and replicate more what a nipple would actually be like. So it still can be done. There's a higher chance of rejection. The only times I turn people away is if I can't grab tissue, or if you have a fully inverted nipple and the nipple never comes outside the body. The nipple has to stick out sometimes you can take the breast and you can kind of pull it and separate it, and that's enough for the nipple to come out, and then I'm able to pierce behind it. But if I can't get the nipple out at all, you're not pierceable. That's the biggest determining factor.
Awesome.
The flatter the nipple is to the breast, the higher the chance for rejection, though.
Yep. Let's see. So speaking of apprenticeships, what are your opinions on the Piercing Bible? An ex-mentor would negate some of what it says, and I'd love to know your thoughts on it.
I think it's great. Yep. Most of the stuff in there is pretty accurate, up to date. There's a revision done. There's a lot of haters in the community. That's what it comes down to. It's like they're probably jealous they didn't write it. You know, there's more than one way to actually do a piercing, but Elaine Angel is brilliant. She's very intelligent. She explains things very, very well. Things get outdated. That's why we continue our education. But I mean, how many people keep rewriting their book every year to keep up to the date? She's already done it once, so it's pretty accurate and pretty darn good. Find me a better source of information. I challenge you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you find it, let me know, because I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
From Colin Willison, speaking of recommendations, do you guys know any good piercers near Denver? I believe Iris has a shop in Denver.
Iris is there. Twisted Soul is there. Those are the two shops that I know of. I know there's more, but I'm drawing blanks right now. Yeah. Noah's taking a look here, so. I hope everyone's having a good day here. We're just kind of winding up here. We're kind of figure this out, and then we're going to kind of head out. We'll be going again live next week. Unfortunately, we won't have Kelsey next week, but I believe we'll have her the week after. She got booked up way too soon before we can mark her off for this. So,
awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
So while I'm looking this up, I'm going to move on. I'm going to try and get to people who haven't asked questions. Abigail asks, what's the best way to go about stretching lobes, and is it best to go to a piercer?
You can do it yourself. Sometimes stacking lobes, taking other earrings and being able to put them in there one at a time, and kind of getting them slightly bigger. And if you pull down your earring, you can kind of see light through there. Sometimes you just put the slightly bigger one in there. You shouldn't have to go to a piercer every single time. Once you start getting to a larger size, like 4, 2 gauge, 0 gauge, sometimes you start needing some more assistance there, and that's where the piercer can help you out. After double zeros, I don't ever suggest using tapers. I hate them. They end up ripping and tearing and causing blowouts. So therefore, I think Teflon tape or like half sizes in the glass are going to be the best way to go about it.
Agreed. And yeah, as far as Denver goes, Iris and Soul Tribe are both probably the move. There are some outside, but in Denver, that's your best bet. I got 2 16-gauge stacked lobe piercings 3 months ago. They're still itchy and sore. Could the healing process be longer than normal lobes because of the larger gauge and closeness of them?
Yes, it kind of depends on how close it is to the anti-tragus, which is that part of cartilage on the top. Sometimes it rubs up against there, depending on how much room you have. And when you get close to that cartilage, it's like, it feels like lobe, but it's right next to cartilage. It does take a little longer to heal up. And if you're sleeping on it and it's pressing up against the cartilage, it's almost like it's going to keep that bruise there and be a little bit longer of a healing process.
Awesome. Oh, sorry, I lost my spot again. Still laughing over the image of a tall, buff man high on gasoline, barreling over a hill on rollerblades, injuring his nipples. From Piert Fan, which I love.
Yep. He's a redhead too, a Marine, so it's like the cut, and I had that smile.
Love it. This is a good question. I notice I do better when piercing when laying down rather than sitting up. Is there a way I can ask my piercer if I can get a piercing laying down?
Yes.
Yes. I wholeheartedly recommend doing piercing sitting down. Or I'm sorry, laying down.
Laying down. It's when you're laying down, every muscle in your body is more relaxed. You're less likely to move. I don't know why your piercer doesn't do this already, because your angles are more consistent. You don't deal with shadows as much. And life is much easier for the piercer and the piercee. People are way less prone to passing out when they're laying down. So yeah, to say, hey, I feel way more comfortable laying down. Can we do this laying down? And if they tell you no, I'd ask them why. I'm being a jerk, but I mean, like, why? Why not? I mean, it's what makes me more comfortable, and they're like, this is the way I do it. Find another piercer then. It's about your comfort. There's certain, if they're forcing you to do things like, okay, ready to take, I'm not ready yet. Like, here it comes. It's like, that's the wrong piercer. They have no bedside manner. Find a better piercer. But if you ask them if you can lay down, most of the time they're going to say yes.
Awesome. We got a couple more questions. I think we can make it through. Let's see. What is the standard? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I need a potty break here pretty darn soon. So.
Okay, cool. I think we got 3 more, so we can make it. What is the standard? What's the standard gauge size for a conch piercing?
There's no standard. 16 is probably the most common. Some people like to do 14. I've done them all the way up to probably 8 gauge before.
Awesome.
Yep.
And let's see.
It's personal preference.
I think this might be the last one, actually.
Okay.
My boyfriend got a septum done 8 weeks ago. When can he start to stretch it?
When it's healed.
Yep.
It's a crappy answer. I fully understand that. 6 to 8 weeks is kind of the average healing time. We're probably closer to 8 weeks, but I'm going to say probably 3 to 4 months before you can start stretching it. Because just because it's healed doesn't mean the tissue's loose enough and ready to be moved on without ripping or tearing. So, yeah, I would say probably 3 to 4 months minimum.
Awesome.
All right. That's where we're winding this up today. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I'm not going to mess this up like I did last week. So do us all a favor. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and, of course, keep putting holes in your body. See you all in the next video.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. I didn't mess that one up.